25.
The session of the Board of Aldermen for December the 2nd of 2025 should come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Are you live?
Oops. Oh, whoops.
Are you?
Did I get ahead of the tech?
We're
Okay,
good.
here we go. Okay, let's do it again. The work session for the Board of Aldermen for December 2nd, 2025 shall come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Morris. Price.
Here.
Ballard.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Sagasser.
Aye.
Raines. Here. Neal.
Present.
Wilson.
Present.
With 7 present, we have a quorum. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm entertaining a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
And the second?
Second.
A voice vote. Those in favor of adopting the agenda say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We've adopted the agenda. Mr. Testerman, you want to step forward and give us your presentation, please?
Thank you, Mayor Stevens, and thanks to the City Council for inviting Bolivar Economic Development Partnership here tonight. So I'm here to speak with everyone about one of the initiatives that we're working on and working with the city as well, and that is our sports tourism initiative. And the reason why this came about was that we are looking for any way to bring revenue into Bolivar that we really haven't done before on a large scale. And so we are looking at several initiatives, but this is kind of the main one that's going to hit fairly recent, or fairly soon, I should say, within the next year, within the next baseball season. So we do have, when I came on board, one of the things that I spoke about with several of my board members and other folks in town, city leaders, business owners, was that a lot of them have kids that are in sports or had kids that are in sports, and they had to travel outside of Bolivar for a lot of tournaments. It would be great to have tournaments here in Bolivar to produce some tax revenue, but also give the retailers some money coming in and so forth. So a lot of other towns benefit from it, a great deal actually, and so we really don't have that here in Bolivar. The impetus, the impetus for this was Fullerton Fields. We want to make the best use out of Fullerton Fields that we can. And it was our understanding that in order to have tournaments, you really had to have turf, which was cost prohibitive for us at this point. And so I partnered with a Heart of America Tournaments, and the owner came out for the last couple months. It's been about 3 months, and we toured Fullerton Fields, and he said, no, we can start tournaments this spring. And it would be minimal because it's kind of late in the year, but about 3 to 5 tournaments, and then it would grow to about 10 to 12 the next year, and up to about 17 tournaments from then on per year. And that would generate quite a bit of funding for us. And so he really didn't have anything to say except we needed mounds in the field to be able to change the plates and so forth for different age groups, which we can. So we've been working with Parks and Recreation on that. And so we hope to we did have we were going to sign an agreement with this gentleman in his Heart of America tournaments. However, he was supposed to be here tonight to kind of substantiate some of these numbers that I came up with him as well. But unfortunately, he signed a national contract and will not be joining us. And so that was a little bit of a setback. We found that out about 1 p.m. today. However, there are other competing tournaments that we are working with, so it's not that big of a setback. It would have been nice to have him here to discuss this a little further. We do have Sandlot and Run and Gun that we're speaking with as well, It's just that we really couldn't have three vying for the same spot. We don't have that much room with Fullerton Fields. So, especially with our own league play going on here in Bolivar. So that's really what I'm here to speak about tonight. Was we are going to move forward with this spring. It's going to start slow. There'll be about 3 to 5 tournaments, as I mentioned, when the baseball season hits. And I'm pretty sure everybody should have. I know the packet was sent out online regarding the sports tourism initiative. These are pretty robust numbers. So when I investigated this across the United States, I tried to pick out similar towns to Bolivar that have benefited from sports tourism, and one of those was that we want to stay within Missouri as well, and that was Pulaski County. So some of the numbers that you'll see here under key assumptions on the first page, which is really the main page. We're looking at 20 teams per tournament, 17 tournaments per year at full value. So within about 3 years, we hope to have about 20 teams playing 17 tournaments. These figures are a little bit high, so if you go down to direct spending per tournament, it's about $200,000. We imagine that would be probably around 100 to 125 by year 3. So we're kind of reducing that a little bit, but that would be beyond year 3. So that would be kind of the full potential that we would see from these tournaments. And there would be some overnight stays. I know that a lot of these tournaments, people come from Joplin, Nevada, Lebanon, Springfield, Branson. They come up to play up here when this goes through. So there would be minimal overnight stays, but it would help quite a bit. But the gains for the retailers would be great. The tax revenue for the city of Bolivar especially would be great. Anywhere from $25,000 to, when it's going full swing, to about $48,000 per season in tax revenue. That would go back to the city. So and then there would be certain job creation factors in that as well. Anywhere just a little bit above 3 employees altogether through various retailers and so forth, and that would be per tournament. So I think that would be a real boon for us as well. So we would kind of hit on all bases, so to speak, for the tournaments, and I just wanted to introduce that to you and answer any questions you might have regarding this initiative for Bolivar and Polk County.
Alderman Ross.
All right, I got a few.
Sure.
First off, the numbers, and you were basing it off of the Pulaski County little study they did up there. Do you really think even 3 years from now we can get 17 tournaments in a season? Like when I saw that in the packet, I called around to a couple communities around that currently host large scale tournaments at that level. Branson, Republic, places like that, and they said they're lucky if they can get 8 or 9 tournaments in different facilities. So, and that's a year plus. We have a pretty robust sports program here that a lot of times they have to have games or make up games on Saturdays. So do you think, I mean, I'll just be 100%. When I saw the numbers, the first thing that jumped out to me was like, this reminds me of when we were trying to build a pool about 13 years ago. We had, hey, if 3,000 people go swimming every day at $10, we'll make $30,000 a day, 6 days, in this great number that sounded good. But then it was, hey, we have 35 people that go swimming a day, and that number has, and so, like, I think one of them was the economic impact for retail per tournament. I think you had like $53,000 for retail sales.
Right.
So my daughter grew up, we traveled Illinois, Arkansas, Oklahoma, play softball. I don't know that we ever, I mean, your numbers you had, it was 668 people and spectators, and that's $250 a person at, say, a Walmart. Like a family of 5, that's $1,250 for a 2-day stay to go shopping at Walmart. Like, I don't know what would they be buying here that would justify that number. I mean, because you had it broke down to restaurants, which, yeah, everybody's going to go out to eat. Everybody's going to do that. Fuel, I understand that. But the retail sales, like that number to me was just astronomically high for the projections for that.
Right. And I think I factored that in as also restaurants and food and so forth. being purchased at Walmart or things like that. And then also people buy their equipment as well. If they leave things at home, maybe they buy pants or whatever for the team or for their child or whatever. But it's also, Dusty, there will also be families joining. It won't just be one parent and one kid.
Sure, but by the
right.
the information you had in our packet, you had I think it was 1.2 spectators per player. You had
Right.
15 players on a team. So just going off of those numbers was what I based that off of. The other thing the Heart of America, you said?
Yes.
So what is take the economic impact out, because me personally, I wholeheartedly don't agree with the numbers, but what does the city gain from a separate entity coming in and running tournaments?
Well, we don't really have tournaments going on now, so the fields would be empty or not in use when we could be using them. And so we could say that about anything, Dusty. We could say that about Springfield. Why do they have tournaments? Why does Joplin have tournaments? So I do live in Joplin. Joplin does have 20 tournaments, 17 to 20 tournaments, and they have anywhere from 600 to 800 people at those tournaments. I live a mile away from these fields. They're not turf fields; they're grass fields. And so I looked at that as well.
How many people live in Joplin?
It's about 75,000.
Okay.
Right. But still, at the same time, there's a lot of people that would be coming in from the communities. We go into Joplin.
Sure.
So we're not talking about just citizens of Bolivar and Polk County. We're talking about citizens from all over the
So
region.
would Heart of America, would they be giving the city a percentage of what they make off of it, or does the city get to keep a portion of the gate? Does the city get to keep a
Right.
portion of the entry fees? Does the city, anything along those lines?
So our deal would have been with Heart of America, but this is standard. And so with Heart of America, and one of the things that I encountered initially was that it really wasn't it was cost prohibitive for us to have tournaments in the first place because the refs were like $65 per game. So Heart of America supplies the teams. They pay us $50 per team.
Okay.
And they pay for the refs' fees. So that's, pretty good chunk of change right there. It's about $115. They pay for that. The gate, that's something we would still have to work out with them, and they said you could do 50-50, you could do $1, whatever the breakdown would be. We keep 100% of the concessions, and we would be responsible for the initial preparation of the fields, which is not unheard of, but upkeep in between games, we wouldn't have to worry about that. And then we would start slow, like I said, about 3 to 5 tournaments, and then grow per those projections. So I'm just going by what the research said, and I'm going by what I spoke with not only Heart of America tournaments, I did speak with Run and Gun, and they said it would be feasible by year 3 to 17. Maybe we'll do 12 to 13. But the point is that those fields should be used. And the point I want to make is that they're not being used now. We have people that want to come in here and spend money. To me, if we get 3 to 5 tournaments from here on out, that's a win for Bolivar, in my opinion.
Oh, and I don't disagree with
Right.
that. The other thing, and maybe it's just the wording of it that is a little alarming to me, is you said you were about to sign a contract with him to come in.
Yeah.
So with that, and I'll try to wear kid gloves here when I say this. The EDP is separate from the city of Bolivar.
Right.
You're a separate entity. So it's a city-owned property. So I would assume that if we're giving a contract to a third-party entity to run a city-owned property, we would all have to look at the contract, see the contract, make sure the contract is okay with us, instead of a third-party entity that's like, oh yeah, we're going to rent out, City Hall for, this, or we're going to allow somebody to do that. So before he signed anything, I personally would love to see kind of the contract, and also, maybe put it out there for all to see, and, maybe there's an entity out there that's like, hey, we can do the same thing, and we'll give you $100 a team instead of $50 a team, as opposed to just the one. That's what I would like to see before we were like, hey, we were getting ready to sign a contract today. Is there any other entities out there who have expressed interest or would want to potentially?
Not for this coming season, but you're right, and I misspoke, so I'm going to clarify on that. I was just saying that we would have had some sort of an agreement, probably not even in writing, They would just probably come in and then somebody else could come in as well. But they generally don't compete with each other. That's the only thing. So of course, I'm not gonna even sign an agreement probably. It's gonna be up to, that's why I'm here. So I'm not signing anything. I'm not gonna approve any sort of contract or an agreement. I kind of misspoke there, I guess, but the point is, we would partner with somebody. I guess I should have used that terminology.
That makes me feel a little better, so.
Questions and comments from the board?
Real quick, so
Go ahead.
you said the reason why they are not here tonight is because they have a different conversation to have with a different place. So are they still interested in coming here, or that's off the table?
Heart of America is not, but there are two others I did speak with initially, and I'd already contacted Heart of America tournaments, and they said we were not really conflict with that, especially in their first year. And so we just stuck with that, and he confirmed last Tuesday with me as well, that he was going to be here tonight. And it literally just happened, kind of caught us off guard at 1 o'clock today. I don't feel that's a huge setback. I just think that's somebody that kind of coached me through all this, and he was going to speak to this as well. And so that did kind of throw us for a loop today. But at the same time, we do have others that we can fall back on that I believe will want to come to Bolivar. From there over year. I think with the reason why I looked at this, and I mentioned this at the beginning of my positioning for this, was that this was approached to me when I came on board because we don't have natural gas. I'm not bringing any major manufacturing anytime soon. This is something I didn't really realize until I got here. It didn't come up through the interview process, and so I'm kind of off that. I don't really mind that too much, but the point is we have to do something to bring in some revenue, and I thought this was a good way. And I was off of this because I was told, no, it's going to require new turf. It's going to be millions of dollars to get the fields done, or maybe we move it to somewhere else, some other land, and just build new. And we're talking millions of dollars, and that's not feasible either. And so maybe we grow into that 10 years from now, or whatever the case might be.
Sorry, that's a lot louder than I thought. Do you think that there's potential, partnering with one of these groups to say, hey, turf on the field, obviously, because, one thing with the 17 tournaments is we get a lot of rain.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming even if we could schedule 17 tournaments, maybe 6 or 7 get rained out. Well, if you have turf, a lot of those may not get rained out. So is there a potential to partner with somebody to say, hey, maybe you're 4 or 5, we could split the cost, or you could, some of the money that they're making could roll back into field upgrades, for turf or anything like that. I mean, is that a potential option? And I want to say, I know I had a lot of, I love the idea of bringing in tournaments, whether it brings in $2,500 of tax revenue or $75,000. I think it's a good idea to get people to come to Bolivar. I was just a little concerned with the higher projections of but no, I mean, I'm all for having the tournaments, but if we could get somebody who could come in and who would say, we're going to invest some of that into future improvements on the field, I would love to explore that option and see if that's something.
And we could discuss that. We didn't discuss that. I discussed it with John Hartley at Heart of America, and he said there are also upgrades you can make to the current grass to make them, more, they absorb the water. But at the end of the day, and this isn't just Heart of America, this was Sandlot when I spoke with them, and Run and Gun, that if a tournament gets rained out, or a game gets rained, it gets rained out.
Yeah.
Now, our fields, I understand, flood. And so we've spoken with the city. That's something I've met with Thomas about, and Todd, and Parks and Rec, obviously. And those are something that I think we could remedy with, not much of an issue. And kind of dampen that a little bit, where it's not rained out for 2 days instead of just maybe 1 day or half a day or whatever the case might be. But no matter what, games get rained out even with turf. So that's at least that's what I've been told. But it's a good question.
Go ahead, please.
I had 2 questions for now, possibly more later. Where, and I apologize if it's in the packet and I just missed it, where did you get the 17 tournaments number from?
That came from the folks I just spoke about. So Sandlot, Run and Gun, and Heart of America tournaments. And that just seemed to be the average that they were doing in a city this size, or even most cities that they deal with.
Okay.
But not initially. So that's
Right.
year
No,
3
eventually.
beyond.
Right.
Right.
I was just trying to get a better idea of how that number came about.
Because I assume, as with all, growth numbers, right? At some point, you run out. Like at some point, there aren't that many more tournaments. Is that you
Right.
level out, or you're having to compete directly with other communities and things like that. Demand does not, increase forever. The other question I had, and I think I'm getting a general drift of from what you've said, but what is likely to be the budgetary investment that the city would be on the hook for if we said yes, go forth, we love this? What would the city's financial obligation be in this regard?
Aside from what it would cost to kind of upgrade the fields as far as maybe getting them less, taking care of the flooding issue, and I'm not sure what that would be. We've had discussions about it, but a dollar amount didn't come up, so I can find that out for you on what that would be. But otherwise, the lighting's great, everything's up to code as far as what they need. So as far as any cost, I think it would just be getting the fields ready that one time so they don't flood as much, and then just what the general costs are now for league play, it would be no different. So right now, when I spoke with the folks I mentioned, Parks and Rec, right now for the league play, they get the fields ready, right before game day, and then they really don't touch them the rest of the day. They just play throughout the day, and so the lines get messed up and that sort of thing. That's just part of it. And I think that, and I know that will be true for these tournaments, but if the tournaments want to redo the lines or something, that's on them. So the costs throughout the day won't be on us, except for the concessions and things like that, and maybe parking or something like that, which we discussed. I don't have the number for that, though.
Okay. When you are talking about the improvements, does that include the reference you made earlier to the mound, the things that need to be done?
No, that's a great question. So the mounds we already have. He was just
Okay.
saying they weren't out at the time, so we
Okay.
didn't know, and I didn't know. So we are able to adjust the pins for the bases. We do have that, and the mounds are there. So we really don't have to do anything to bring in these tournaments at this point.
Okay.
And that's really the whole purpose of my conversation here today, is that we don't really have to spend millions of dollars to get a new field to bring in tournaments, which was the original idea. We can have tournaments come in now at a very minimal cost to Bolivar, and we can kind of grow that. Right now, we really just don't have that. And so we're going to utilize the fields that we have as they are, pretty much, except for changing the flooding issue and some other things. But as far as a high cost to the city of Bolivar on that, it's just not going to be as great as what we initially thought.
Which, I love hearing words like minimal cost. Very much a fan of
Right.
that particular phrase. But just the fact that it's not millions doesn't mean
No, I
we
agree.
can foot the bill. So for me, and I don't work in that field, so I just know that some of the stuff involving getting those fields improved, some of those price tags have been very high. And there's a part of me that thinks, well, if there was a low-cost way to deal with the flooding, we would have already done that just for our league players. So I certainly would feel more comfortable having some kind of ballpark number to attach to these minimal costs, so that we know. We're going to be having a budget conversation, later this evening. Because even a minimal cost, you have to have the dollars to do it, and I would want to make sure that we are in a position to support the initiative in the way that it requires. Because I'm with Dusty. I like this idea. I think it is a good way to serve the community and to support the small businesses in our community. But we still have to find the public dollars that are required, that if we need to do that. So I think if you can provide that information, or if Todd's in a position to provide that information, I think that would help me at least feel more comfortable assessing whether the city can make a commitment like this.
And Alexis, it would help me. So
Yeah.
we've had meetings about it, and
Sure.
it's something that it seemed like we could do it. And so I don't know what that cost would be, but I'll try to find out from Parks and Recs, and I can get that to you. But I was just saying in comparison, like you mentioned,
Sure.
to what we probably in the millions, but it's not going to be. It's not. I don't anticipate it being that high, but I don't want to do it either if it's going to be cost prohibitive. I really don't.
We can answer some of those questions for you right now.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
love answers.
We're not talking, 50, 100,000. We're talking like $10,000, $15,000. We have money budgeted this year, and we haven't had the opportunity to even spend it yet. We've been working with Kyle and his team to see what we can do in-house.
Okay.
And we plan to put another $20,000 in next year's budget to kind of finish it off. So we're not prepared to spend more than that.
Okay.
And as far
also-
as, if I can continue, please, as far as staffing, so really it's prepping the fields. Because we've done this in the past. We did this, Chase, last year or 2 years ago? Last year. Same concept, right?
Yeah, I remember.
So it's really no big expense for the city. Essentially, get the fields ready, walk away. But we do have people that have to run the concession stands. That would be at minimum wage.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson, did you have something?
Did you have a question about that?
No, I was just gonna say that those upgrades that we had, those won't just help for tournaments, those will help for our regular season
Absolutely.
games as well. All the parents with the rainouts and Chase having to schedule
Right.
all the games, yeah, so that
It's
could
it's
also.
a natural water flow issue we have at
Yes.
Fullerton Fields.
Yes.
And if we can talk about that in more detail, if the board would like to hear that from Chase and Todd.
No, I mean, I'm happy to hear more about that. My thought was more, if it was a fairly low dollar amount, presumably we would be dealing with it for our league players, and it sounds like we were, in fact, moving towards that before any of this stuff was pitched to us, and so that makes sense. If it is something that is the kind of expense the city is in a position to commit to, that we would already be doing that. So that makes a lot of sense and helps me significantly, so thank you.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. So I might get some weird looks, and I'm just used to it. Chase, thanks for being here. Todd, thanks for being here. Is there a reason why we cannot just host it ourselves instead of having a third party come in? You know, having parents that have sports teams and being on them myself, playing in a tournament's not really. I mean, it's expensive to play. Usually, it's like a $400 or $500, $600 for a 2-day tournament. Now, I understand that that requires us to get the fields ready. We're already doing that already. Sounds like. I think the hardest part would probably trying to find umpires. I don't know if there's like in hockey where there's a networking of hey, we need this, people come in. But having said that, I mean, we're talking about if we have a third party come in, we're going to have to split cost or split revenue with them anyways, I think we were trying to have, league tournaments anyway. So is there a way that we can get rid of the third party and say, hey, we can dedicate our own resources to a tournament?
Mr. Alford, did you have
I would not
response to that?
recommend that, sir. It's not cost effective for us to do that. We don't have the staffing to do it. And Brad alluded to it earlier. The umpires cost a lot of money. That alone would breaks the budget.
So
just-
when you go to like the U-Trip tournaments and things like that, those umpires make
Oh, yeah.
$65, $75 a game
Oh, yeah.
a piece, and there's at 20 teams, multiple. I mean, I like the idea of a third party because if we can make money and just kind of step back and say fields are ready, here you go. Like I like that. I just had one more.
Yeah.
Do you know why Heart of America bailed at the last minute?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good excuse. They partnered with the national, the AABC, was it American Amateur Baseball Committee or something. So it's a huge deal for them, and they are going to be part of the new West Springfield facility that they're building. It's an indoor facility, or not indoor, it's a huge facility. And so he's vice president of AABC now. That was part of the deal with Hope. So this must have just happened because he was definitely, as of last Tuesday, going to be here tonight.
So I'm not up. What are they building in West Springfield?
Oh, it's just apparently a new ballpark with amazingly new fields, but that's going to host high school.
Sounds great for our term.
Well, it's going to host high school
saying.
mainly and travel teams. These aren't travel teams that we're talking about. These
Is
are
that the
regional.
Allison
Allison Family Event Center.
out near the airport? Is that the one?
Yeah.
So because he's involved in that, he can't host tournaments here?
Because they're only doing turf now. Because of that deal, they only play on turf fields.
Okay.
And so we out of that.
Questions and
That's one of
comments?
the reasons.
Further questions? Further comments? Thank you, Mr. Testerman.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time.
We'll see if this can get legs.
All right. Well, thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Can I
Thank you.
ask a
Yes,
question?
go ahead,
Just-
please, ma'am.
I'm wondering what the next, I realize this is just a discussion item for tonight. Assuming that the total cost to the city, as Thomas has said, is not significant over what we're already planning to budget, is the plan for this to come back to us for decision at some point? Is the plan, what happens next with this idea?
Mr. Relford?
I would say Brad continues to try to find a vendor to work with.
Okay.
And then we'll bring that back to the board.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
And we have had a conversation. We may have someone who can help us. We'll find out.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tesserman. Mr. Relford, Rock the Wreck and
Yes,
the
sir.
Soul Route.
So we have tentatively scheduled October 10th of next year for Rock the Wreck, second annual, and we need to lock in Soul Root, the band that we had here last year, because they're filling up fast. We had money left over from the budget for this year, so with board's approval, we'd like to go ahead and pay the retainer and get that locked in.
Okay, discussion? Entertain a motion to accept the agreement with the Soul Route.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor,
Aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes appear to have it. We have accepted the contract for Soul Route, and if anyone missed it last year, they missed something really special. I think you'll be pleased to hear them again.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a
Oh,
question?
yes, please. Yes, go ahead.
I realize that for item number 1 on the agenda, we had sports tourism. In our packet, the EDP.
That was a
document-
mistake.
Okay,
That, we're not going to discuss that. Only the sports tourism was on the agenda.
that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing something that we needed to talk about.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Lee, I want to step forward and tell us about Locust Street drainage repairs, which I understand has become a complicated issue.
Yes. So,
Expensive.
yeah, after initial review, I had expected to see a higher expense, so that might be the underlying good news. But if you weren't expecting anything, then it's going to sound expensive. So this what happened is in our normal course of work, which included overlay on Locust. We became aware of a drainage issue on the box culvert section that passes under Locust, and some further investigation into that drainage channel that leads into the box culvert that passes.
Now, in reading this, were we talking about the one from Great River? When you read this over, were there two? One near water,
Yes.
and the other just right next to what I used to call Tommy Miller's Market, but that was, none of you were born then. So.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Uh,
yeah, if I'll try to
just the one.
No, there's two. So I'll try to describe and summarize this letter. So we became aware of some failure in the box culvert that passes under Locust, which is just, the passing is just west of Albany, and then additionally just upstream of that, a portion of box culvert that passes under Water Street. So there are two locations. Those are the specific locations. The portion that passes under Water Street is just a historically constructed, and really I'm using the term box culvert probably for people's familiarity with the type of structure, but it was masonry constructed, and the base of it has eroded significantly and requires repair. That one is not of, it's considered in light of it being part of the same drainage area in this assessment, but the primary cause of me calling and contacting an engineer for an engineering assessment was the portion that passes underneath of Locust. And that portion, which also includes a significant sidewall that was a masonry type construction, does have some failure within the wall of, it's a multi-wythe design construction, and so
And
it
we
has
discussed
some.
this on the last meeting, didn't we? That that was going to maybe have weight restrictions on that?
We did place a weight restriction and contacted an engineer. I don't think we've discussed it here at the board
Okay, I guess
as
that
of
was
yet.
elsewhere. I'm sorry.
So in any case, we had this engineering assessment. We are confident at this point, and with that this is not a point of immediate failure. Like I said, it's a multi-wife construction, which means there are multiple layers to the wall within the structure. However, it is significant in its need to be repaired and can't be left, to continue to erode. And especially, I think we need to take action before a heavier rain season that, of course, would be coming in the spring. And so I asked Great River to conduct an engineering assessment alongside of us. With that, we engaged them as well as took some site meetings with them, and they produced the report that I included in the packet so that you would have that detail. Essentially, what is from that is a preliminary design and estimate that we would primarily do this work in-house. The first box culvert that I mentioned can be fairly easily remediated with the pouring of a concrete floor and a toe wall, some items like that. Probably those details aren't extremely necessary, but that cost is estimated and reflected. I think these costs are conservative. I think they're reliable. I will tell you, at one point, I thought there was potential we might have to remove a road section. There is a water line that crosses and a sewer line that cross under or along locusts that go through the box culvert, the drainage way, and that complicates it further. Because of those concerns, I had initially estimated when I discussed with Thomas that this could be easily in the mid six figures. So that having not occurred is why I say it's a better number than it could be. Nonetheless, these numbers are still high. They were not originally budgeted. This all came about. We've moved very quickly on this once we became aware of it. There is money within street reserves, and we would intend, with the board's approval, to do it out of that. That's, of course, one of the reasons why it's good to have reserves. So when you have emergencies type of situations like this, I certainly would be happy to answer any questions. I primarily just want the board to be aware of it and ultimately, seeking approval to begin moving forward in the planning phase of this further, and then funding this as we are able. Again, my goal would be to do this before the rainy season, before March, April. Yeah.
I presume we will have discussions about the cost on this.
Well, I just got a question.
Sure.
We've had community members come in and kind of talk about that area with some water and flooding. Will this help with is the erosion? Does that cause any of the water to back up or anything like that could help, hurt it upstream that is causing some of that? Will this maybe alleviate any of that? Do you know?
The answer, unfortunately, is no, not likely. So, and it's a point of just personal frustration. That had been, for some of our planning, an area that we had intended to spend some monies on and some time early next year. It's unlikely that we'll be able to this, that season, because we'll have to address this issue
Didn't
first.
they say that a retention
Yes, I did
pond
ask.
above just turned out to be
Yeah, I did ask the engineer to assess the potential of a
Unfeasible.
retention pond so that we could maybe do some different things upstream. It just wasn't feasible. The costs of those can be significant, but it just didn't provide the flow data that would support such a thing. So, unfortunately, no, there won't. Upstream improvements will not be significant, but I will say that the design of the crossing under Locust will improve significantly for the potential of clogging. And in instances where that has occurred, that will improve your upstream potential. I just don't want to make any guarantee because I don't know how often that has been the sole source, because I know there are various problems or concerns in that area. Exactly. So I would say it has the potential to improve it, but primarily it's dealing with this particular issue that is detailed here. So
I take it we were not anticipating this, and so what about the funding on this, sir?
I think, yeah, he said it was going to come out of the reserves, and that's why we have.
I mean,
reserves
so,
for issues like
okay, I
this.
mean, that was,
that would be our intent. Our intent would be, I did not put this in, as I mentioned, my budget portion was already submitted and didn't seem necessary to make those adjustments. Those items that are budgeted for next year are still going to be necessary. This is on top
And
of
I
that.
don't know if you want to
So-
say, but you mentioned there was maybe a project you wanted to do that might get pushed back. What was that project?
Well, as I mentioned, we had sought to do some improvement along the ditches up in that area. We are still intending to do, I'm working with a surveyor, hopefully to have completed the access easement for the Park View Street one. We're still waiting on that. I'm just waiting on those documents so that we can get that on the schedule as well. So what I'm looking at is things that can be done before the next rainy season, and there's just a
so
limited amount of
they're
time.
going to get at this right away, is that, you say before the rainy season?
Yeah, we have some other projects that are ahead of it, like Walnut Street that's
Yeah,
open.
sure.
There's some other things that are in front of that, but yes, I mean the intent would be to move forward as quickly as we're able. Some of these projects we can take, a hit at and at different times and things like that. So
Mr.
Questions
Mayor?
and comments? Go ahead, please.
I realize you may not be able to answer this, but am I right in thinking that because we're repairing something that's already established, I guess how confident are you that the quote will correspond to the actual cost? I'm thinking, so my comparison here is Albany over here, where we've discovered problems with the soil and
Sure,
how
yeah.
sturdy it is, or we've had to, sometimes we encounter a bunch of rock. Like, there's a lot of unknowns when
Yeah.
you're doing something that's an actual build from scratch. Am I right that it's less likely that we would be encountering some, we need to now go through and amend the amount because there's been something that's made it more expensive?
sure. In this case, the primary function of the repair is new materials and there's not a lot of excavation
Right.
types of exposures of things that are unknown. So I don't see a lot of change in that. We've also tried to be my budget number there is more conservative than the engineer had originally estimated. So I'm, trying to provide something that's, and I don't expect, we're going to move quick enough that I don't expect to see some massive spike in
Right.
materials or
Sure.
things like that.
Okay.
Materials could be the only issue that causes us a time delay. I don't
Okay.
expect it to cause a massive price delay, because
okay.
we're going to move quick enough that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mr. Wilson, put.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we approve the estimated budget request of 80.
Are you looking for that tonight?
Uh,
Is this just information?
Yeah, I mean,
I think we planned that with the expenditure, we were going to go ahead and ask for an approval.
yeah, I think, it would benefit probably approval up to that amount. We're going to have to come back, I mean, there's going to be materials that are purchased. If we have any outside costs other than the costs of the pipe or concrete that we had to contract out or something like that, that would come back to the board. But I do think it would benefit to have approval up to that, expected amount, since it's not a specifically
Okay,
budgeted
so we do
item.
have a motion, a second,
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we go with his budget estimate for this repair.
then a second? Second. All right, those in, voice vote, I believe, is appropriate. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We have approved up to the amount, what was it, 80,000?
8,500.
Correct.
Was,
500, yes, correct. 80,500.
for fixing the box culvert on Locust.
Locusts in the water area. Correct.
Now then, Mr. Lee, you're still on board here to discuss the fleet management service bid contract. Go ahead.
Yes, so this should be, I think, fairly straightforward. We put this out to bid for the purposes of supplying the city with, our open effort at getting anyone who would be interested in providing these services. We're not contracting with them directly to provide all of our oil changes or brake jobs at this point or anything like that. And we are still working to fill a mechanic position within our department. But we wanted to have this through the normal course of presenting bids to you, so that we could have one approved that when we need to use them, whether a mechanic is otherwise engaged in a project or a position is open or something like that, that we would have this on the record that we made this effort. And of course, we'll need to renew that from time to time in those efforts. And so the recommendation, there were two respondents, those are listed there, ST Auto and Advanced Auto are detailed there. Ultimately, the costs, everybody does their pricing slightly different, but the recommendation from the staff was ST Auto Care. And this is a budgeted item. It's an item that's budgeted regularly in each individual budget for their maintenance of their vehicles. So,
Further discussion? Then I guess we will entertain a motion to approve the recommendation for the fleet management service bid.
I can make a motion that we accept the ST Auto Care bid.
And a second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed say no. The ayes have it. We approved the recommendation for the fleet management service for the ST Auto Care. Now then, Mr. Lee, as usual, you are still on board to discuss Liberator Avenue and the latest developments on that project.
all right. Well, everybody probably remembers Doc Brown told us roads where we're going, we don't need roads. But since that didn't come true in 2015, like it was projected, we still have roads in front of us. And one of those that the city has endeavored to engage on was the East Loop, or generally referred to as the East Loop. We are intending to make that name change to Liberator Avenue ultimately. That will be moving through the processes with our Planning and Zoning Commission and then back to the board ultimately just on the name change element. But
Yes. That was official. We voted on it.
well, ultimately it will go through the process and come back here, but it was recommended by the board for that to be Liberator Avenue. However, in the most recent, timeline, I think it was important. I shared a similar document with you a number of months ago, but it has changed, and that change is not insignificant. And so I wanted to bring this back to your attention so that you can make an informed decision on how you want us to proceed on the staff side as we continue to move forward in whatever direction you decide. So quickly, I will just point to you, the primary change is on the first page. So on this description of costs, this is what I'm looking at right now, should be in your packet. That description of costs on the very top, the estimated construction costs, the roadway on the north section is estimated at $5 million. That cost has not changed since last time you saw this. The south section roadway has also not changed, estimated at $7 million. However, the intersection costs, we produced an application to MoDOT for a 50-50 cost share, and in that process went further into design, far enough to have preliminary and really more than preliminary if you think of it. It depends on how detailed you think of something preliminary, but it has been designed such that MoDOT has approved that, has offered to us a funding agreement based on a request of $4.8 million. There is noted for the north roundabout. That is a significant change. That's probably a little more than double about double what the initial cost estimate would have been for the roundabout. So that is a significant change. Additionally, the south intersection is just about double what had initially been cost estimated. So we could probably talk for a long time about why. Why is that? I don't know that I've tried to get the answer to that. I don't know that I'm going to give a extremely satisfying answer on why it has doubled, except for to say that I do think this is a conservative approach, but I don't want that to be heard as we are saying 4.8, but we're definitely not going to spend 4.8. I think, as is common practice, if we say 4.8, it will probably end up costing 4.8 or possibly more as inflation and all those types of things affect us. But I also know that the effort was made by Great River when they submitted that application on our behalf, which we asked them to do. When they did that, they wanted to make sure that all the potential costs for that were captured in the application because we were ultimately asking for half. So if our ask had only been for $3 million and half, then we would have been, if we were approved, we would have been approved for half, but then if it exceeded 3 million, that would have all been on us. So the expectation is that this ask at the 4.8 and then the approval at half will encompass that entire project. I do think that is accurate, and it is a conservative approach. We should have good faith in doing that. The other element that is fair to say as well, that initial cost was estimated very preliminary and quite a number of years ago at this point. So I think it's right to offer that fairness to the point. I know that, 6 months before that, people said a roundabout cost $1 million. So, it has changed dramatically from different things, but time being potentially one of those. However, what that means to us in the total project is the last document you would have seen had a total project cost of just over 16 million. We are nearing much closer to 20 million at this point with these estimates. That does include on your paper, you see the original engineering cost estimate plus what is projected at roughly $200,000 in additional engineering costs, which would take us through a right-of-way acquisition phase is what they would project those costs to be, getting us all the way through that phase and a fully designed roadway, both the entire north section, entire south section. So I want to try to be quick, but also touch all the points that you might have questions on. What we have right now for funding, if you look down into this next block down here on the left, mid to bottom section, what we have for funding sources already identified and acquired are the governor's cost share. In the past, people may have referred to that as a 50-50 cost share. That was the application request. That was not what was granted to the city of Bolivar. We received a 25% reimbursement. So that gives us in that request, what that means is we have available $3.35 million. We do have a federal earmark through HUD, which is for $2.5 million. That money is available to us. In fact, we will probably draw back in the next month or so, draw back all of our expended engineering costs against that 2.5 million, and we'll still have monies, and I'll explain that a little further in a moment. What we have in front of us is this projected funding source, which is a MoDOT 50-50 cost share, and that is for only the intersections, only the two intersections. So, of course, that takes our cost for the north intersection from 4.8 to 2.4. And of course, I'm doing some averaging here or summarizing here. You have the details more specifically in front of you, and then takes the south intersection to roughly 800,000. So, of course, the 50-50 cost share is a significant, cost savings to us. But with, as it stands right now, MoDOT's disposition is that a permit for the intersections should be granted contingent upon our financial commitment and ability to build the roadway corridor. That is of concern to me because I don't know, given our previous conversations, at what pace the board would desire or the city would desire to construct that roadway. I think there's probably much agreement that the concept of that roadway is good. I think we've had those discussions, and there's been some movement in that direction. But to to make a commitment that we will build that or fund that. I think we are at a point of decision making here. And so I want to try to describe a couple options that I think are in front of us. None of them are small decisions, so I don't expect that this would immediately be decided tonight, but also there is some timeliness with these funding agreements, and I will have even follow-up conversation with MoDOT to try to communicate something about your disposition on Thursday this week. So let me, on the back or the second page, you'll notice a couple options described. So first at the top in the kind of yellow orange boxes, you'll just see a breakdown. You can look into that more. If you need more detail in it, I would be happy to answer that, or one-on-one after the meeting if need more clarity. But the ultimate summary there is that if we were to proceed with the entire project with only the funding sources we have currently, the cost to the city would be $10.7 million. Okay? Assuming that the city's desire would not be to expend $10.7 million in, say, the next 2 to 3 years on that roadway, there are a couple options listed here. The first one, A, is to design the entire corridor, design the entire roadway as it's been projected and discussed in public meetings and all of that, and to acquire right-of-way for that entire corridor. The benefit of that approach would be that we would be, as some people will often refer to, as shovel-ready for any other types of funding that becomes available. Such as there are some federal grants out there that can be applied for. There's not a lot, but there are some significant ones that meet an 80-20 type of cost breakdown. So we could spend just the money to design the corridor, acquire the right-of-way. If we did that, the cost to the city, the final cost to the city would be $0. And the reason that is because we have I know that sounds good, right? But we would leave, to be clear, we would leave about $760,000 on the table. I don't know yet. I haven't got full clarity, and I'm a little cautious unless the board, until the board makes a decision, to tell HUD that we might not want all the money. Okay, I don't really want to do that until we've decided we don't want all the money. But that the reason we could do all of that I described at $0 to the city is because we have already a HUD earmark that is able to capture those dollars back. So in actuality, the city will have spent about $1.7 million, but we'll get it back from an earmark that has already been identified and is ours to take those funds. But we will leave about $760,000 on the table there from that earmark. Then if you look to the right on that A, the darker colored blue, what you see there is, well, okay, what about the rest of the roadway? What are we going to do? When are we going to build it? How are we going to do it? And I just set out a very simple, if we get 50-50 grants, it's going to cost us $9 million. If we get 80-20 grants, it's going to cost us $3.6 million. That's all speculative. That is me saying, these are just the numbers at those particular breakdowns. We haven't identified, or we don't have any, pending grants at those dollars. But I would also note that would be us dismissing right now. If we took option A, we would dismiss our governor's cost share, 25%, or I should say, we would not utilize it, and it has the potential to expire. Okay, so that I don't think we're at any point necessarily going to be.
That's the 750 that you were talking about?
Nope, that's from the HUD earmark, but this is the 25% matching funds that has been referred to, is called the governor's cost share.
Yeah, okay.
So those funds, we would say we're not intending to use those. We would also say that we're not intending to use the MoDOT 50-50 cost share on the intersections. So both of those are fundings that we have worked to acquire and we do have access to right now. And so I just want to be very clear, that step would not access those funds. So option B, and the asterisk there, I just want to note that just HUD has not, I have not discussed these options with those funding groups. We, of course, you guys need to be the first decision makers on it, then I'll work to make them come alongside what our goals are there as best we can. Option B here is similar in the note that it requires some discussion with MoDOT. I have a high level of confidence that those discussions would be potentialized in a good way. And that approach would be to design the entire corridor, again, both the north and south, to acquire the right-of-way. And in that case, you could acquire both the north and south, or just the north. Those details could be worked out. But the primary addition there is to construct the roundabout at the north location, so at D and 32. The ultimate cost to the city for that would be $1.2 million, roughly $1.22 million. The reason is because we would utilize $2.5 million of the earmark. We would expend that completely. We would utilize $2.4 million of MoDOT's 50/50 cost share, and we would utilize $435,000 from the governor's cost share. Obviously, if you looked at the governor's cost share numbers, we're leaving a lot of that on the table. We could, again, leave it sitting there until we come up with other funding sources and possibly use it, or it does have the potential to expire. So, and then the same thing, you look further to the right on that, the darker orange, that's just like, okay, now what do you do with the rest of it? And that's where the numbers work out there in various fundings. Yes.
I am maybe misunderstanding the MoDOT grants. I had thought you said at the beginning of your conversation that the 50/50 from MoDOT was contingent on us saying we would build the whole thing.
Yes.
So
This option, that is the portion I'm talking about, that I have some high confidence that MoDOT would agree to 50/50 fund the north intersection alone because of its value to their system and identifying it as a need that could be a standalone need. I had that as an initial conversation with the Southwest District director, and I believe that conversation led me to believe it was a viable option. Again, that's my asterisk, that it does need final approval to pursue that, but I have a high level of confidence, and I think we could push for that because they agree that that system would benefit. And it's really their benefit of, do you want to get it at 50/50 from us, you know, or not?
Right.
So yes, I do think that.
Okay.
But there is, as I say, there is some potential there that they could say, no, you build the whole thing, or just the whole
do it, yeah.
program's
Okay.
gone. Kind
Mr.
of
Lee,
thing.
something has
Yes.
puzzled me about the city's participation in that when almost nothing else, and I have dealt with MoDOT not very successfully under many circumstances, that why, since those that's at the intersection of two state roads, why are we required to participate in the funding of it?
Well, I mean, that's a fairly simple answer. We're not. We're not if we want to go through the standard funding process for a project like that, which includes getting on the STIP and the state funding list. And I can tell you that I can just in plain language give you the reality that intersection's not getting on the state funding list in any of our lifetimes.
Yeah.
That's just, it doesn't have the fatality rating. It doesn't have the danger of an intersection that's going to climb the list. It has to climb the list locally, has to climb the list regionally, has to climb the list statewide. And
that's not
I mean,
gonna happen.
I'm giving you my opinion here. I mean, someone could know someone someday and get something done there that wouldn't cost us anything. But that would be how we don't involve ourselves in the funding of it. We just press it through that listing problem. What MoDOT does is offer this 50/50 grant to say, obviously not all the projects are going to get on the STIP if there's communities out there that want to share the costs. And so, that's the way we approach it. But yeah, by no means is it our only option. It's just, like I said, that intersection is unlikely to see an improvement in any near time frame if it wasn't through this type of a program.
Thank you.
So the last I'll describe C, and as you could imagine, there could be endless options here and the combination of various different options. But the last option that I put forward on the list tonight would be, and again, I have confidence that MoDOT would accept the separating. In this case, what we would do is separate the north and south projects. They really already kind of view them that way because as much as we've considered them part of one corridor, they really are a connection and a termination. And MoDOT really looks for that, a roadway to begin and to terminate at another natural roadway. And of course, they both do that independently of one another. And so in this case, the approach would be to design, again, the entire corridor and then to construct the north intersection and the north roadway. So what that means is that the roundabout at D and 32, as well as the road section that would travel south and would connect to Buffalo Road. So that would be what's proposed there. The ultimate cost to the city, and I'll give one caveat to this, but the ultimate cost to the city right now with the funding that we have available, again, assuming MoDOT will separate those, I have high level of confidence they would be willing to do that at this point, would be that cost to us would be 4.9, basically $5 million. Now, I will say we also have the potential, and I would want to pursue asking this if the city would want me to, but we have the potential in that method we would only use half of our governor's cost share. I think we have a high likelihood of being able to go back to MoDOT and request to use all of our governor's cost share, but instead of at 25%, use it at a 50% rate. So what we're asking them for is not more dollars, but a higher percentage in order to expend those funds quicker on our portion of the project. I'm not guaranteeing they would do that. I think that's a harder ask in some sense, but those dollars have been associated with our project, and I think it is certainly worth the pursuit of saying, hey, let us spend all $3.35 million. And so that would then reduce that $5 million number down by another 1.68 or so. Does that make sense? So you could potentially see the roadway and the intersection constructed for the $3.8 million range, somewhere in there, 3.5, and depends on how they adjust those dollars and all.
Questions and comments? Go ahead, please.
I have a question about if we were to construct the northern part of the roadway.
Yes.
What is the effect on Buffalo Road of functionally becoming the bypass until whatever misty date in the future we come up with $8.58 million?
Sure. Of course, we could pursue it at other funding, 80-20
Right.
or something.
No,
but yeah,
but
absolutely.
until
Yeah.
we have that,
No, I think
Buffalo becomes the part of the bypass.
I think that the reason that that's still a logical and effective transportation benefit is that you do have relief on Sandy Lane. You do have the ability to still get all the way to Mount Gilead or to Aldrich Road. So, and that was always intended as part of this transportation plan. So I think because of that, it's no more traffic intensive than the whole corridor.
Okay.
Really. I mean, I think you can make the projection that a far future traffic intensity down at Mount Gilead and Springfield could be increased, though I will say the one benefit to us in that is that would push a point of, I don't know the right word, conflict, but it would push a point of necessity that would be on our route and MoDOT's route also. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It does. Do you think it also, because of where it would connect that route to get to Aldrich, would that also have the potential to create increased demand for county participation if they're seeing increased traffic on their portion of that off of Aldrich to get to where Liberator Avenue would join up with Buffalo?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's. I mean, yes, I think that you're going to see increased traffic along, 132nd, Sandy Lane, in any of these scenarios, because one of the whole essence of them is relief on the east side of town from traffic having to travel all the way to Springfield Avenue through the square to make a southward, connection. And here you would be able to take that, whether you peel off at Buffalo or take Sandy Lane all the way down to Aldrich or Mount Gilead. Yeah, I think we always projected that would increase that traffic out there. It's why we tried in various levels to work with the county and work within even the existing right-of-way. And I think we would probably make those efforts anew as a future work once we did that.
I use that intersection there a lot, and it seems to me that as it is, that it is already being used as a bypass. I mean, there's a very, very significant amount of traffic, and traffic of all kinds that come in from the east and take off of 32 at the intersection of Buffalo out there near the, well, you know where it is.
Yeah, Sandy Lane
And,
there.
right, and then make that turn.
Yeah, if you're
It
coming
seems
from
like- it seems
east
like
outside of
it's-
town, it's
in
already
many-
a natural
It seems
south.
that in many ways it's already serving that purpose.
I think that's true. This would make the connection from D Highway the more direct,
Yeah.
passageway. So, and I will note also, just in planning that has to do with not just roadways, the potential of that section of the East Loop, including like a trail that is part of the project, would have the potential of connecting the existing Kiefer Park with our projected Town Branch Park up in that area. That had been planned as part of a primary connection between those two.
Further questions or comments?
I have another one.
Go ahead, please.
Sorry. And this may be a little bit precipitate, but what kinds of financing mechanisms would be available to the city? I mean, we're not going to write a check for $5 million anytime soon. So what does that look like, and what does the actual debt service on something like that look like? What's the budget, the annual budget impact that is would be likely to produce, and for how long?
Yeah, I think that is a good question that we haven't spent an extensive
Sure.
amount of time without knowing first kind of what is the large vision, but we would have pretty ready access to the state infrastructure bank. Their rates are much more competitive than just what a local bank would offer, and that kind of thing. And they're restricted for infrastructure projects and things like that. And so it's likely, in just some of our initial conversations with our finance department, it's likely that we have some investments that would outpace even, our return would outpace that interest cost to us at the state infrastructure bank. That's probably the most likely available source. Of course, all of these numbers are going to be projected out. We're still going to build if we did this, we'd still pay for the engineering first, build the roundabout next. I mean, so there is some progressive. I mean, this is a multi-year project in any case, so there's some budget relief there, but obviously, $5 million, not over 4 years or 3 years.
Right.
There's not budget. We don't have streets budget to spend $1 million a year on this road project or anything. So it's going to have to either come from existing investments, or I think the state infrastructure bank is the other reasonable location.
Do you know what length of term?
I can get more of those details, and I can do it for that $5 million-ish number here, or where
I think it's helpful for me. I don't work in this world all on a day-to-day basis, but just to have an idea of what kind of number we would be looking at annually in order, and for how long in order to support this, because at some point, obviously, great as the road is, at some point there just isn't the dollars available.
Yeah, we're happy if the board has any questions they would like answered. We're happy to do all that research, have it ready for the next meeting.
Okay. That would be, like I said, my big was with the annual budget impact, and for how long of the various options. I can figure out the annual budget impact of option A. That's $0. I've got that one on my own, but the other ones, it might be helpful to see what that would look like and for how long.
Further questions or comments?
Not a problem.
I think we saw this matter as a information for information purposes only, and
Well-
without necessary board action, I don't believe, at this point. Go
No,
ahead.
I do just want to say, I need to be able to bring any questions you do have to bear to MoDOT. We have a funding agreement offered to us on the 50/50 cost share. We're going to have to make a decision about that. I've delayed them, in those conversations. We could have, they delayed in actually getting the funding agreement. We were told about it in September. We didn't get the funding agreement until the last day or two of October, and then we've been engaged in some back and forth. And I think they're being reasonable about that discussion. They understand this is a big decision. So my only thought is I need to know enough from the board that you feel comfortable that you've told me what you want me to know to pursue, so that I can either bring to you a funding agreement from MoDOT or not. I mean, that really ultimately is the question at hand. And I know that the board may not be able to make that decision tonight. And if that's the case, please just tell me, hey, we can't make that decision tonight. But it'll probably need to be made at the next meeting. And there's no pressure. We can apply for a 50/50 cost share in the future, but the one that exists
On the
in front of
table
us
now, yeah.
now is going to have, an expiration timeline. And I can get some clarity with MoDOT on Thursday on my call that, hey, this is the drop dead date. You don't accept it by then. You just reapply in the future, whatever the case is.
Yeah, I think having a date would be helpful, but then also, and I guess, I don't know if you think it would be better to feel them out about their willingness to go ahead and adjust to covering just the roundabout, if that is actually an option, or if you don't want to ask them about that option unless we decide that that's what we want to do, is just do the north intersection first.
I've flushed all of those out as potentials already with them, so there's nothing hidden in the conversation.
Okay.
So I guess really what I'm saying is just any questions you have tonight, so that the next time we meet, if those questions are answered, you can make a decision on whether you want to accept the funding agreement or not.
So how confident are you on footnote B and C? That that's what I'm trying to figure. Like, I don't want to say, well, let's do B and have them adjust and just pay for and then it turns out that they're like, no, we said the whole roadway, we meant the whole roadway.
No, I mean, I have a pretty high level of confidence. That's why I
Okay.
put it on here. So I mean, I didn't. This isn't
Okay.
total pie in the sky ideas here. But I can't guarantee it. But what I'm saying is
Sure.
that decision could all be. I will work that out with them and then bring that type of funding agreement to you. That would be contingent or not. You know what I'm saying? That would be the only thing. So that's all. And again, I'm not saying need to make a decision right now. I'm just saying any questions that would need to be
Right.
answered, so that at the next meeting, or
You want us to be ready to
that
make a
we
decision,
could make a
yeah.
decision then.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Do you have from our discussion, do you have the questions that you need, or do you need some further
He just
clarity?
doesn't want us to come back with more questions next time and say,
Yeah.
thanks for that information, now
don't
I
know
have
what-
3 more questions.
Yeah, I don't know what other questions
Yeah.
anyone might have, but I mean,
Ask
I
now.
feel that I can go with what I have right now. I'll look into
Yeah.
the state infrastructure bank.
Certainly.
I can get details about that.
It
I can
seems
get
to
a
me,
drop
but I just
dead
didn't
date.
know that if you were asking for more, for.
I mean, there's nothing I'm
a
thinking
clear
about
answer.
that I want you to ask. I would tell you. I would tell you if there was a question I thought you should ask at this point.
All right. Well, I think it has,
Okay.
it's a lot to digest, and.
It is.
We haven't heard the last of it.
You're speaking with them on Thursday, is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
So if for some reason anyone thinks of another question that they would love for you to answer,
Message me before
can
Thursday.
they reach out to you? Just in case we aren't recalling immediately all
absolutely.
the questions we
It's
could
a
ever
big-
have.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Okay, Chief Johns, you're up next.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for
very
having
much.
me.
And I guess you'll bring us up to date on your organizational restructure, which
Absolutely.
we should have digested at least partially here in front of us.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
We've sent you a copy of kind of what I put together for the board, and I thought I would just kind of go through and just review the highlights of each section. There's really 4 topics here that I kind of put together for the board. Put together kind of a CALIA, which is our accreditation overview for everybody, because I heard at the last meeting there were some questions about CALIA. The second topic, where there were questions at the last meeting, had to do with the difference between departmental wages budget projected for next year and then this last year, and put together some reasoning for that and some different items, and we go over that. Topic number 3 is from my interview during the hiring process. There were a couple of goals that were given to me, and I wanted to update you on those. And then the last topic is the restructuring plan. So if I could, I'll just be real brief until you have questions on any of the topics, but I'll just start with the first topic, the CALIA overview. I broke down what is the individual items or subjects that each have their own costs, and I tried to work that out to kind of show that, you know, some of these are not costs for every year. The 2 things that I would highlight, and then I'll ask for if you guys have any questions on the CALIA side of things. One topic that I wanted to stress, I put it in bold print with the bullet point there. The Power DMS software is something that we do use for CALIA, but we use that for all of our policies. We have a good deal of training that goes along with that, and we do a lot of training electronically. Part of it is training of policy in addition to other trainings as well. That is a really vital program that we use every single day in the department, and it's really got a lot of bang for its buck. And so that was something that I would want to continue using, whether we continue with accreditation or not. And that, of course, is up to the board. And then the assessment fee is something that we only pay during assessment years, which is every 4 years. And we paid that in 2025 because we have hit the final steps of accreditation. So with everything going the way it looks like it's going to go, we're going to be fully accredited at the beginning of the year after we finish these last few steps. But we've paid for our assessment fee already, and the assessment is the beginning process of the assessment's underway right now. So those were the highlights I wanted to bring up. But if you guys had questions about CALIA, we could talk about that.
Okay, you say they're just the last steps. What are the last steps?
So right now we're conducting basically the electronic audits of everything that we've done for accreditation. We're doing in-house versions of that as well, so that we make sure that we fix anything that we need to fix before the outside auditors do that as well. And then we'll have an outside electronic audit. And all that means is they're not going to come here to do all of the auditing.
Now, is that a financial audit, or is that a procedural audit?
Procedures and policy, and basically there are numerous different standards that we have to meet, and we have to show what we would call a proof of each standard being met. And so we have done that. And so it's just a cross-referencing of all of our policies and procedures and showing examples of how we meet our policies and procedures, and we do what we say we're doing. And so there's an electronic version of that where they don't have to send anybody here. We're doing our own internal audit as well, and then an outside group from CALIA is going to be doing that as well. If they find anything that we need to, like say a particular proof, they need to have us make an adjustment on that, and we need to see these additional details proved to us, that sort of thing. If there's any issues like that that need to be corrected, that's why they'll do an electronic version of the audit before they'll do the site visit audit. And then there'll be a couple of months that we can finish all of those issues if there are any. And then we make those final adjustments before they come here for a site audit. And so the site audit is going to be sometime in the first quarter of next year. By the time they're doing a site audit, there shouldn't be any issues with the site audit because we've already confirmed that we're good to go and we've done everything correctly. So there shouldn't be any issues with the site audit.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Alexis, go ahead and go first.
Yeah, so a couple of questions. The subscription contract that is mentioned at the top of the page, at what point in the year is that cost incurred? Was that a January 1? Is that like a annual from our last time we signed it?
Let me look over at
She's
Natalie.
checking.
Okay.
See if she can check on that.
She's saying November.
So we already did it? We're getting ready to. Okay. What portion of the expenses, and I guess if it's November, this may answer probably question partly. What portion of the annual expenses associated with CALIA accreditation will have been incurred by the time the audit and all of that inspection is done and we actually are or are not accredited?
I believe the assessment fee itself, which is the big one, has already been paid because we've begun the
Right.
assessment process.
And it sounds like we would have to decide one way or another about the
just the
contract
the-
subscription prior to whatever the audit would be to take place.
Correct. So I think and correct me if I'm wrong, I think I'm going to reflect the answer to your question. I think other than
The training.
potentially the subscription for next year, I
Right,
think
okay.
it's paid for. I think cost-wise,
Uh-huh.
we've done what we've needed to do. It's just a matter of finishing those last details of the kind of the physical and mental work of it.
That 4065, since it was, if the contract term was ending in November, does that mean that that was on the 2025 budget, that we've already approved that expenditure?
Yeah, it's, that 4,000, that's gonna be next year's cost
But that won't be incurred until November
of next year.
of next year. So I assume would we be anticipating an answer, yes or no, on accreditation prior to November?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we should know by probably
Right.
end of first quarter
Okay.
that we've met accreditation.
And then, two more questions, and then I'll let Dusty have a turn. About the Power DMS software, you made a reference to, there's a lot of bang for the buck there. Is that the only available software for that purpose, or the most competitively priced software to do what it is you need done?
I believe that it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get very specific details if you want for all the other possibilities. We have some other training software that we use as well. But when it comes to all of our policies and the updating of policies and the training and confirmation of policies by all of our officers, it is a very good tool.
Okay.
Very, very good
You
tool.
mentioned other software for training. Is there a cost associated with that other software for training?
Yes, I'd have to get you those numbers, but we also do some other online training for our continuing education credits every year.
And
that
we
have
need
to do
both of
for
those
post.
softwares? We can't get all of what we need from the Power DMS?
We can't get I don't believe we can get all of our continuing ed training done through Power DMS, and there are some courses that we have some other software for, but I can check on those very specific
Yeah,
details.
just wondering if there's a way that we can make that. I get very discouraged seeing all of the lists of software costs in the budget, and I know some of it's unavoidable, but just anytime we can, my old person analog heart just struggles
Understood.
with some of that.
Go ahead, sir.
Natalie just looked it up. That software here is referred to as $2,100 per year.
The additional training
Yes,
one?
ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And then my only other question for right now was, the total annual cost most year between $10,300 and $12,000. Does that include staffing costs, hours that city staff are investing in this accreditation process?
No, that is not part of it.
Do you have any idea how many man hours go into, I'm sure it varies depending on if we're in an inspection year or whatever, but what investment of, was a full-time job, 40 hours a week just to do this, or a half-time job, or?
Yep, I can answer that. Previous to this upcoming year, it has been over the last probably 2 to 3 years, it has been a full-time commitment for one particular individual. The way that our structure had been in the past is they had assigned a corporal to do that job. So it was one of our commissioned positions. And part of this answer has to do with the most difficult, challenging part of getting accreditation was getting us to the point where all of our standards were met. That was an incredibly challenging task, and it did take the full 40 hours a week for that one individual to get us to that point. Now, the good news is, once you've met accreditation, there will be new standards that have to be met that get added from time to time, but it's not like the challenge that we faced going from zero to everything. And so the last few years has been an incredibly challenging, heavy lift for that one individual. But moving forward, maintaining is very similar to, we've already met the standard before. Here's what we did to prove it last year. An example might be, here's a police report and body cam footage that shows that we follow this particular procedure when we arrest somebody. We capture the body cam footage, we capture the reports, we put those in a file, we scan it all, we add it to that particular standard, and that is our proof. We are following that standard. We already know how to follow the standard. We followed it in the past, so we just have to capture one of the reports and the body cam footage in the future to have a proof for this next year for that particular standard. So then add that process to all of the different standards that we follow. Maintaining it is not nearly as hard as building ourselves up to the point where we are at now. And so having said that, while we have been in a full-time staff position to get there, now that once we get this completed, now that we're going to be there, it will probably be about half that, or even a little bit less than half that. An additional thing that's part of my restructure proposal is actually that I transition that task from one of my commissioned corporals to a civilian support role, and that's one of my asks for phase one of my restructuring, is to add some additional civilian support, and that's going to be very helpful. And so what that does is that'll actually minimize the staff cost as well. So instead of a police corporal, which pays a lot more than a civilian staff member, we'll be going a lot less for that particular position and task.
And do you, sorry, I promise.
No, no, okay.
That halftime level to maintain, does that continue fairly steadily even in like an inspection year or an on-site assessment year? It's not like you have a big spike every time there's a big accreditation event?
There wouldn't be a huge spike. Obviously, it would take more hours for things like site visits and some additional things. There would be some additional time, but it wouldn't be like anything like what it is now.
Okay,
or rather what it has been
Mr. Ross.
the last couple of years.
Couple questions I have.
Yes, sir.
Number one, so that part-time civilian position that is in there that, you're going to split. So you're thinking what, maybe 20 hours a week so an additional, I'm trying to do math times 52. So probably about an additional $25,000, $30,000 with benefits and things like that. So we'd be looking I know we had budgeted 14, you're saying 10.3 to 11. So we'd actually be looking at probably closer to $40,000 to have somebody kind of dedicated to CALIA moving forward. Okay, so the biggest concern I have is we talked last meeting, we spent probably 45 minutes nickeling and diming what we could raise our sports fees, $5 here, $10 here, because our budget, the budget, it's pretty full. And I'm just looking at, I'm not a mathematician, but $40,000 that we spend to have a position and be accredited at $10 a kid. That's a lot of kids that's what, 4,000 kids that could continue to play youth sports at the same price that they're paying now. So, I just have a concern of, we're going to, raise the price for tax-paying, citizens of Bolivar because we're saying that we have a budget crunch, but then we're paying $40,000. And again, in a perfect world, if we had all the money in the world, hey, let's get accredited. That's a great thing to have. But I have all the confidence that you're running a very professional department as it is. To me, I look at, some of the changes you've done, the things you've done, and I don't need an outside agency to be like, hey, Bolivar, is a great department, especially when departments our size. I think we learned last meeting there was 5 of them, statewide. Now, I could be wrong, and if I am, feel free to tell me, but in the hiring process, have we ever, have we had somebody say, it's between these two agencies, but Bolivar is getting accredited, so that's where I want to go work because they have CLIA accreditation? Is that, is that a fair statement that doesn't really necessarily play into
I can just speak personally.
100%,
And I'll tell you that I can't say that we've had people applying to Bolivar recently who have asked that question. Many of our folks that are applying are fairly new to law enforcement as a career. I can go back in history, and I can tell you when I started the police department, I was coming out of college. I didn't have a lot of experience either, but I was casting my net, and I was looking around at all the different possibilities. Where can I go to work? And my decision did lean towards Springfield PD, because I said that as I looked and I assessed everybody, said that department has the best training. They are the most professional. I want to do this for a living, and I want to be excellent at it. And where do I want to go? Surround myself by excellence. And so that was part of my decision making. I certainly want to bring excellence to this police department. And again, we've got a very good police department already, but we can always improve, right? We can always move forward. I know that this had been a goal of the police department for a very long time. This police department was accredited many, many years ago. I don't know the full history of why they stopped doing it, but from what I was told before I was working here was they had been attempting to get that accreditation back for quite some time and been unsuccessful. And we've gotten it to the point where now we've made it to that point. So I'm very proud of my team for that. We've definitely done it. Whether we maintain accreditation, that's up to the city. It's up to the board and it's up to the community. There are definitely benefits. I listed, of course, some of the benefits here. That's just for you to look over and decide. Running a very professional police department, I think, is incredibly important for very obvious reasons, but there's no question that the police department is the biggest problem of any city, of any county, of any state, because we're the highest liability role of that governmental organization. We are the place where literally part of the role of the officers that work here is to, through the law, take freedom away from our citizens. That is a huge responsibility, and it has to be done appropriately, correctly, justifiably every single time. They act out of line one time, and that can bankrupt a city. And so maintaining very high professional standards, very high best-in-class policies, it's incredibly important. So
I would take it that word gets around that within that subculture, that people know what which towns have the good departments and which have problems.
I think that's absolutely true, and there's many variables that get looked at along those lines too. One, it may not be specifically, do you have accreditation or whatever, but just as a general term, which is the professionally well-run police officers are doing what they're supposed to be doing, things are being done correctly by the numbers, by the book. We're going to know the difference between the departments that do and the departments that don't. Also, those with a very strong, positive culture, a good culture. Is this a good place to work? Is it a place that I can learn and grow and be developed? Places that have good training. Those are the things that officers are looking for.
And I wholeheartedly agree. And I think that you are building that culture and that reputation, and it's seen by. What my thought is, I don't think that if the board tonight says, you know what, we don't want to spend the money on Kalia, I don't think tomorrow you're going to be like, the department has fallen apart and we have lost our culture and leadership, and now we're.
That is absolutely correct.
I mean, and this is just my opinion. I think you personally bring more to the table than what spending money to be accredited brings to the table. If we're not accredited, I'm sure you're not going to be like, well, our policies are just going to be willy-nilly, we're not really living up to you're going to have a set standard whether we are accredited. I mean, we're not accredited right now, and it's a good department, and we have standards. I don't think if we aren't accredited, we're just going to say, hey, we're losing those standards. And to me, like I said, the biggest concern I have is it just comes down to, to dollars and cents. We have things in the police department, the fire department with the minimum wage. Like our public safety budget is up almost 900,000 this year to last year. The Parks and Rec, we actually cut their budget, and then we asked them to, hey, can you raise your rates and things like that. The other thing that we have to look at is when we continue to go in this direction, I mean, it's great right now because the citizens showed the trust that we have in our public safety, and we passed the public safety tax. Well, that sunsets in 15 years. So, I mean, if we continue to grow by $900, $400, $300,000 a year, I mean, that continues to go up and up and up. And so the concerns I have is when we're looking at other areas that pull from this pool of money and saying, hey, what cuts can you make? And then we look at, a department that is already professionally led, is a very professional department, has a great reputation. I mean, just aside, everywhere I go, and I run into somebody who knows you, they have nothing but great things to say about you, which is rare, especially in this business, because a lot of time you make people mad or somebody has something. I have yet to hear a negative thing about you or the department since you've taken over. So I have all the faith in the world that if we're not accredited, I don't know that we're gonna not be where we need to be.
Got a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Oh, go for it. You're waiting longer.
No, thank you. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm kind of looking at your staffing you have now. I know in different departments and different agencies, and it might sound bad, but it almost sounds like you're putting too much on one person's plate. You kind of mentioned that it's not a full-time gig anymore. It's kind of like a part-time gig. And kind of what you were saying was, well, we're finding clips of this report, we're attaching it, and then we're sending it saying we're following this steps. With your staffing changes, and I'm thinking on a different level, you have a chief, you have an assistant chief, you have 3 captains or whatever like that, and then my mindset. I know in a different department, captain does training, captain does fleet management, captain does this way. Is there a way in your department where you can be like, okay, you're over training, Khalid is part of training, this is your, instead of hiring another person, and again, I'm not trying to sound like we're going to push all this on one person, but is that a possibility that you can have, okay, you're part of training, Khalid is part of training, this is your area of task?
Right. So what we've got right now is we actually have the vast majority of Kalia on one person,
Sure.
and then one of our lieutenants takes the brunt of some of it as well. And when we look at the 2 civilian positions that I'm adding, or that I'm asking to add rather, one of the benefits of doing that is actually taking kind of a reorganization of taking 2 commissioned positions, 2 officers,
Sure.
putting them back on the street, and then having their administrative duties that they're currently doing go to civilian staff, which is paid at a much, much lower
Sure.
rate. And so a piece of this is maintaining the administrative things that we are currently doing. There are some additional administrative needs that we have as well that we just don't have the administrative staff for. So those things are the kind of the main bit of the additional administrative positions. But the main benefit the department and the community gets out of this is by doing that reorganization of moving those roles and those responsibilities, I'm getting 2 more officers on patrol, which is desperately needed right now.
Go ahead, please.
Did you go ahead? I was going to reiterate what I think Alderman Ross was pointing out, which is that regardless of the values of accreditation, you are and have been pursuing excellence and professionalism in the absence of the accreditation. It's not like that's a prerequisite in order to be that kind of department. And I think we can see that because, as Dusty said, other departments our size, it's not super common for them to have this level of accreditation. And I assume that within the law enforcement community, there would be some acknowledgement that at some point you're a small enough department that however excellent professional you want to be, 40 grand a year is too big a chunk of your budget to pursue accreditation. And I think we're in a difficult position because I don't think any of us remember whatever benefits we received the first time we had CLIA accreditation. we don't really have anything to compare it to. So there's not really a specter of, if we don't get this, what happens? Well, that's the status quo that all of us have known this whole time. And so it's hard to see and compare the value of that. I know in your documentation you pointed out that the board goal, getting us across the line for finish line for accreditation, was a board goal. I think that is something that was a goal of the previous chief. It's not something I knew a whole lot about or personally felt deeply invested in. My question for you was, if you had come here, no groundwork has been laid, no steps have been taken towards a CALIA accreditation. You come in, you start your work as chief. Do you say, well, what we need to do is pursue CALIA accreditation? Is that one of your first priorities out of the gate?
I couldn't tell you that it would be one of my first priorities. My first priorities would be some of the other things that I'm doing: the restructuring, the training, the systematic development and improvement at every level of the department. But absolutely, I am a big believer of accreditation. It's not the getting it. It's not the the attaining it and having the plaque on the wall. It literally is the process that is the benefit. Because the process of working through it and meeting the standards and developing all of our policies, making sure they stay on the cutting edge of what are the best practices in police work across the nation, the work that we do to constantly strive, all of us are getting training in what are the best practices consistently while we're working through that process. So I say that just the working on it is professionalizing us as we go through. And so also, of course, I come from a department that had been accredited my entire career. So it is unknown territory to be in a department that's not at that level. But again, a plaque on the wall, to both of your points, that doesn't mean all that much. We have reached out to the insurance folks to just ask them if there are any insurance reduction rates, and which we of course could use some of that right now. And they weren't able to give us specific numbers, but I believe they did give us a kind of a positive affirmative answer that yes, having an accredited police department would be part of their I don't know the word to use, but part of their analysis or part of the algorithm that they would use to try to come up with that number. So their answer was vague at this time, but they didn't give us specific numbers, but they did give us an affirmative that there certainly was a potential that that could help a little bit financially as well. Now, would it financially reduce our interest by the amount that we're paying for it? No, certainly. I don't think that would be a possibility, but maybe it would. I don't
Do
know.
you know if we were to successfully acquire accreditation, qualify for accreditation, and then decline to pay let me get the name right, the subscription cost for 2026, and then at some point in the future decide that we wanted to move toward accreditation again? Are we having to start, I guess if what you're saying is the legwork, the preparation is key, we would maybe, I assume, be on the hook for another assessment fee, but our investment on getting ready would have already been, we would have already made that investment.
Just the physical internal us working through policies, building,
Yeah.
writing policies, all of that, those physical things that we've done and the policies that we've created, of course, we have those.
Yeah.
And those are currently at the standard of CALIA.
Right.
To answer your question, could we just not pay a subscription fee for 3 years and then approach them again 4 years later and ask to go ahead and get assessed, even though we're not part of that program? I don't think that would work on their end, but I don't know the exact
Well, yeah,
answer.
I'm trying to figure out at what point we lose our investment, if at all, to where we then, if we decide to come back to this, we have to start all over. And because some of that is our investment in our own department, we don't have to reinvest those dollars. And I'm not saying declined to subscribe with the intent of going dark for a couple of years and then coming back just
Right.
to skirt the
And I
fee.
certainly
It was
know.
more of a, if we decide we don't think that we need to pursue this, and then later on, upon further reflection, we decide this is a worthwhile thing that we want to devote city dollars to, how much would we have to do all of that again?
Certainly.
And reinvest the time and the money for that?
Certainly.
Okay.
I would say with that in mind, it would not take us probably the 2 to 3 years that they've been building internally all of our systems and processes and policies. We wouldn't need to do that. There will certainly be some new standards between
Sure.
if we decide to go away from this and then at some point in the future do it again. There'll be some period there where there will have been advancements and adjustments in several different types of policies that we already have, and then some new standards that have come up based on best practices. So it wouldn't be the same challenging lift as what it was this time, for sure.
Okay. I think Alderman Price.
Alderman Price?
If we decided to pause Kalia, cancel Kalia, put money somewhere else,
Yes, ma'am.
with the new policies you have in place that have been in the process for 2 or 3 years now, do you think the department would still run efficiently, effectively, get the job done, transparent, accountable, and operate at its peak where it is now, or better, without CALIA accreditation?
I'm going to run this
have the
department.
standards
I'm going to
and
run this department
policies.
as best I can, and all of those are my goals and objectives. I'm going to strive for every single one of them,
Absolutely.
whether we do this process or not.
Mhm.
And that is up to you. That is up to the board.
Okay.
Discussion?
Got one more question.
Question? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ashley, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Do
please.
you think there would be, do you think there would be a negative impact on the department and the morale if we decided to not pursue Kalia further?
Well, I do know. I'm very glad that that we've been able to achieve this goal, having been a goal for quite some time, and they've been working on it for quite some time, and especially a few key individuals have given literally everything that they do to make this happen. And then, pulling that away from achieving that type of a goal, right before they cross the finish line would be a morale buster for sure. I think there could be some negativity just to the question, well, what did we do all this work for?
Yeah.
And of course, there's an answer, and I can certainly answer that, is that we haven't lost the professionalism and the things that we have improved. We haven't lost that. They're still improved, and we are better than we were because of this process. No question. I think continuing the process, and this is just my personal opinion, I think continuing the process just means that we continue that striving for best practices. This program, again, it's international. That is a streamlined version of us figuring it all out for ourselves. And of course, we can do that. We can try to figure it all out for ourselves as well. Meaning just staying on that cutting edge of professionalism and updates and legal updates, all of the different things that we do. Certainly we can do that. We can do this any way the community wants to do it, because in every community, the community decides how they're policed. Absolutely. It's not my decision for that. The community decides how they're policed. They decide how many police officers and what role those police officers do, what kind of calls the police officers go to. The standards that we expect our police departments to do. That's all because of the community. They decide. So, I don't know if I fully
Go ahead.
answered that question. Did I get all of that?
Chief Johns.
Yes, ma'am.
As a police chief in the state of Missouri, there's a Missouri Police Chiefs Association that has an accreditation, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know anything about it, that's why I'm asking.
The
Okay, not a good thing?
Yeah, let's just not even go down that road.
the very
No, we will not do that again.
yeah
That's
the
the only reason for my question.
No.
the very
We don't want to go there.
yeah,
Goodness,
the
that
very
caused a storm.
yeah the very limited knowledge I know about that. Yes, there is one. It does exist. It's not at the same professionalism level as this.
Well, it wouldn't be.
And I believe that the department had attempted to go that direction. It was at some point between leaving Kalia, and again, that was probably 12 years ago, or maybe somewhere in that neighborhood, something like that.
15 years ago.
And then at some point between then and say about 3 years ago, maybe, there was a period of time where they attempted to do that version of accreditation. Now, I don't have specific details on why that didn't work out, but it did not.
That's okay. According to board reaction, I'd like to rescind my question.
My
Yes,
my
Mr.
last
Wilson.
question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So it sounds like we're gonna have an assessment this year.
Yes, sir.
So that's already done and paid for. We're gonna have a test either way that tells us we're accredited or we're not accredited, correct?
Correct. I don't believe there's any additional financial cost. I think we have paid that part of it, and so or if there was anything else, it would just be very minimal and nominal. But yeah, we're to that point. As long as we keep striving and keep finishing up those final details, we're there without any additional expenditures, and then the board can certainly choose how we move forward after that.
I can we move on with your presentation? If everybody okay with that?
Yes.
I mean, we can talk about this again under the budget. So.
I don't have any more questions about page 1.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude.
Yeah, certainly.
So,
All right. So
go
my
ahead, please.
Yes, sir, ma'am. So second topic was there had been questions to the difference between the 2026 police department budget when it came to the wages. I believe that was what was discussed at the previous meeting, where there had been some questions. And so after having discussions with Thomas and Natalie, we all kind of worked together and gave the list of those bullet points. The majority of that difference is from those bullet points. Probably the two bigger things would be that starting in the beginning of 2025, and this is looking at about 5 or 6 months before I came here. I guess about 6 months before I came here, we were 7 short in positions. And just to give clarity to everybody watching and listening, that's a third of the police department. And so at that time, the officers who were here were stretched so thin that they were working many of their days off just to keep the very minimal coverage of just having 2 officers on at the same time. And so they were getting very, very little days off. And if, God forbid, somebody got sick and they couldn't come in for a day, we had to pull people off of other shifts and have them work an additional shift when they're already working, 12-hour shifts 3 to 4 days a week. So two things are different now. We have been able to get all of those -1 commission position filled. So we're holding 1 opening right now that we're working on the commission side, and we've been able to fill all those positions between that time and now. And then part of that extra money that was spent was simply the overtime of folks coming in on their extra days off to cover. Of course, they're being paid more when they come in for overtime. So our overtime budget in 2025 was much, much higher than what we had even predicted in the budget when you were setting the budget for 2025. So we're predicting now that we're up almost to full staff, and we very much hope to be at full staff within about the next month and a half, that our overtime budget will be about a quarter of, and even less than what we predicted it would be when we were setting budget for last year. We predict it'll be even less than that for next year. So those are the 2 big things. And then the final thing on the bottom of that page, which I think is actually maybe the same or slightly less of a hit than some of the stuff up at the top, was those 2 additional civilian support staff positions that I'm asking for.
Further questions?
So-
Or I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just a couple questions I have. So currently, right now, we've got 25 1 open slot. So we've got 24 commissioned, I'm assuming, working at the moment. If my math of 25 -1 is correct, to be 24.
Yes.
And I'm assuming we've got, the chief, the 2 lieutenants. Do we have 2 investigators?
We have 2 investigators.
Okay.
Yep.
So-
1 corporal, 1 officer.
So, I'm assuming that the 2 lieutenants and you don't like cover a shift as most supervise. Like the brass staff doesn't. You're not out taking calls and things like that. So that leaves 19 to 20 officers that we have for the road. Or does that count like our school resource officer in that 25 or is?
That the school resource officer is part of the 25.
Okay.
Yep.
So then we have 18 to 19 that would be left for the road after those. 'Cause we currently run 12-hour shifts. How does that staffing look with 12-hour shifts?
The staffing right now is a corporal and hopefully working towards 3 additional officers on a particular squad at a time. Doesn't work out that way all the time because people are sick sometimes. They've got vacation time they need to take, all that sort of thing. Most days with the current staffing we have a minimum staffing of 2.
Okay.
So most of the time, that's actually where we're at.
So your goal is hoping to get 4, a corporal and 3 patrol officers, or we're on each 12-hour shift. So, or as a unit, how many shifts do we have that would have each 4 units on that shift? Is there 4 shifts?
We've got four shifts,
Okay.
basically four squads. They work 12-hour shifts. We've got a daytime and a nighttime on each day. And then on subsequent, if we look at 2 weeks together, 1 week a squad will work 3 days, and the next week they'll work 4 days. And then the opposite squad does the opposite. So first 3 days of the week, the other squad does the last 4 days of the week. And then the next week, beginning of the week is 4 days, and the other shift is 3 days. That's how we work it right now. In my phased restructure plan all the way out to 2029, I want to get it to a point where each of those 4 squads has a sergeant. And again, we haven't talked about any of that yet, but I want them to have a sergeant, which is going to be a first line supervisor, a corporal, which their main role is going to be major crime investigator / field training officer, coach, mentor, that sort of thing, and then 3 officers. So I want 5 on a shift for all 4 shifts. Now what that'll do, if you then work in vacation time and sick time, all of these types of things that come up, I would be able to move my minimum staffing from 2 on at a time to where we would always at a minimum have 3 on at a time.
So have you looked at other, and I know everybody loves 12-hour shifts because you get those 3 consecutive days off, then 4. Have you looked at like 410s or 5/8s to see what that would look like as far as staffing to make sure that?
Staffing is more challenging with numbers and coverage and having adequate backup, that sort of thing, for 10-hour shifts. I love 10-hour shifts. I did the majority of my career on 10-hour shifts, and I think they're the most healthy shift. But with smaller departments who are trying to maintain, and here's the tricky bit, 24/7 coverage, you've always got to have people on every day of the week, 24 hours. That's the tricky bit with the size of department that we have and the size of city that we have, making sure that we can have, again, right now we have minimum of 2. My challenge with that is Bolivar's not that small, and we've got a lot of stuff that goes on here. If we have one call, which we do routinely, where it's there's either violence or a threat of violence or belief that there would be violence, where we need to have 2 officers there, the term that we always used historically in police work is now we're blacked out, which means there's nobody available for any other calls. All other calls have to wait. And right now it just takes one assault call where somebody's hurting somebody else and we're having to place them under arrest. And then we're blacked out. If we only are at minimum staffing, we don't have anybody else to go to the other calls.
Okay.
Got more? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, can you talk to us more about the civilian support staff positions that you are asking for 2026
Sure.
and what the specific needs are for those positions.
Absolutely. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit and just go to the phase one page. So the two positions I have, one of them, notice that there's numerous pieces to that particular pie. Fleet management, emergency vehicle technician. I'll pause on that for just a second. We have a particular individual at our department, which is a godsend, in that he is an emergency vehicle technician. He's got all the certifications as though he was working in a shop that specifically did all of those updates, upgrades, outfitting of a car whenever you purchase a new car, any problems with any light systems, sirens, any of the equipment that goes into a patrol car. We have a person that is not just knowledgeable, but fully trained and certified to do all of those things. Now, he's in one of our commissioned roles right now, and he is in a position where he could actually shift over to a civilian role. And I would like to be able to have that happen so that we can keep that incredibly helpful opportunity, because every single one of my chiefs meetings where we have all the Southwest Missouri chiefs come together, we do that once a month for a couple hours, just to kind of share our challenges and share our successes and share strategies so that we can learn from each other. Every single meeting that we have, there are one or more chiefs that bring up their struggles with getting anything done with their patrol cars. They bought a patrol car and it's been sitting there unused for 9 months because we're waiting on getting it outfitted. And that is the norm at all of our Southwest Missouri agencies. They're all struggling to try to get that done because there's not enough places that actually have the certified technicians. So we just happen to have one on staff right now. And again, I'm going to be wanting him to move from a commissioned role to a civilian role. And then also he is certified as a property room clerk, and then also really, really good at crime scene tech. He's been to a lot of training in schools. And so civilianizing for major calls, and let's knock on wood, thank God, we don't have a ton of major crime scenes that we have to work. We don't have very many homicides or very, very serious crimes here as a standard historically. But in those moments, being able to bring in crime scene tech to do the majority of the evidence collection and the documentation, that sort of thing, that keeps my commission positions on the road, and they can then detach from a major scene and then get back in service and do those calls. So I have one particular person that we'd like to move from a commissioned spot to a civilian role. That's going to open up hopefully a commissioned spot. Another option, which doesn't give me that additional commissioned spot, would just simply be to freeze that position and just move him over to a civilian role. So adding a civilian position, but then just freezing my commission positions. But that is a move that I do need to make one way or the other, but I would like to do it in such a way that we add that additional officer in the field. So that was part one.
Can
and I can
you-
talk about the other one.
Yeah, sorry. Can you give me an idea of how much of his time is spent on the emergency vehicle technician work?
Fleet management, emergency vehicle technician, I would say weekly 40%,
Okay.
something like that, 30-40%.
And can you remind us what the other current civilian positions are in the police department?
Right now we have, they all have the same title, just police clerk, but the specific roles, I've got a front desk office worker that is outward facing, basically community facing. She runs the front desk for all incoming just non-emergency telephone calls during the daytime hours, assists walk-in reports, and all of the other administrative interactions that the public has with the police department. I have another police clerk who runs That and a super long list of many, many, many administrative needs of the department. There are well more administrative needs than she can do in a full day or in a full week with everything she's got. Constantly behind and overtaxed. She is there isn't a minute that I see her not scrambling all day, every day. Not a minute. And with those are the two that are near the front desk area. So they also help support each other if somebody has a lunch break, that sort of thing. The two that are there, there's many times we just can't hardly keep the front desk even staffed because there's just too much to do. And then literally if one is sick or they have leave time, it is overtaxed. The third civilian position we have is property room clerk. And that is all of the management of property room and the chain of custody and the disposal of property and all of that. That is a huge task. Those are the three that we have. Oh, I'm sorry. And we have one more. Thanks for catching me. And then we also have a crime analyst, civilian crime analyst that works with our investigative section.
Okay.
So those are the four.
So I assume since you have since part of the position that you were requesting was assistant property room clerk, does that mean that the workload of the property room clerk is currently more than one full-time position's worth of work?
There are multiple issues that we're facing with that. Some of them have to do with the status of our current property room clerk, and we've had some physical injuries, and we've had some long-term leave issues. Not her fault at all, but we've had to make up for that over time because of a physical injury that occurred, and there was a lot of leave time, and a lot of things had to be covered. And then this particular individual was already trained up and certified and signed off on for all of those property room tasks as well. So kind of cross training. That's another thing that I'm going to be on the back end, not something I wrote in any of these documents. We're going to do a lot more cross training in the future of all of the different roles as well, both on the civilian side and then also on the commission side in the future. That's not something that costs money. That's my job of training and that sort of thing, and just mindset. So that was the first position. Then the second position that I was requesting was kind of that combination. Part of the role would be the accreditation, the policy, the professional standards, and then part of it would be additional administrative support. Because again, my two at the front desk area, they're overtaxed constantly. And then in the time that I've been here, the thing that I've noticed is that I find myself doing a significant amount of administrative that I am backloaded on a lot of these improvements that I'm wanting to make and a lot of the training and the development of my team and my staff. And I think if I had some of my administrative time shifted to somebody who is a professional administrative worker, then I think the things that an administrative person can't do to run the police department, I would have more time to do that. And so I just think that would help greatly with our success and my efficiency.
A
Go ahead,
quick
Ms. Powers.
question on that one. I mean, I'm going to be jumping around on you, and I
Sure.
apologize.
Please do.
But this is phase 1, January 26, and that's position 2, which is a new administrative assistant and accreditation manager. Okay, now if you jump forward to phase 2, which is just July of 26, you're wanting to add a captain or promote into captain. Would that not be the person who should take the administration part off your shoulders
Okay.
and not need that?
Okay, let's go to,
And if we don't do the accreditation, would that not wipe out that entire position?
okay. So if we go to July 2026, the promotion from a lieutenant to captain, let's go back about 6 months or maybe 5 months from today.
Yes.
We had a resignation of one of our lieutenants. For quite some time, the department had run with 3 lieutenants overseeing different
Right.
sections of the department. Since that time, we've been running an open position, and that has taken two significant sections of the department under one lieutenant, and the oversight is just not there. It's the span of control is too much. And so what I'm doing with that is twofold. One, promoting a member of the department to that open lieutenant position. That's the main thing that's happening July 2026. Now, the promotion to captain is not going to be a financial thing. It's just going to be an organizational thing. So
Right.
basically what I'm asking in July 2026 is to go back to the 3 commander level that oversee the different sections of the department. The only thing that we're doing, but I think is helpful for the captain section of it, is taking one of those 3 lieutenants and we're raising them structurally right above. Much of the same previous oversight. It's going to be very, very similar, but we're going to have that captain have the 2 lieutenants report to him.
Which would be a budget increase, because with the promotion to captain would come a bump in salary, correct?
I don't think the bump in salary would be more than maybe $500 a year. I don't think in this case it would. We have a particular lieutenant who has been here for over 30 years.
Yes,
He would be the one that would be moving to captain. He makes, because he's been here for, I believe it's now 31 years, he makes significantly more than our other current lieutenant or another lieutenant that we would promote into that position. So just because of his years of service, he's got basically what would be a captain's pay already. So I don't believe there's going to even need to be
Okay.
either any increase to his salary, or if anything, it would probably be something like $500 more for the entire year. I think it's going to be very nominal.
Okay, and with one other question. Go ahead. I'm looking at how we're structured now and how you want to be structured in the future. I'm already wondering if we're not a little top-heavy on supervisors in brass and light in... The only way I can describe it, honestly, is too many chiefs and not enough Indians. So how do you justify keeping such a ratio of supervisor to officer?
Well, I've done a lot of research as well, and with the number of commission staff that we have, what my full phase at the end plan is very similar to what kind of the standard is. Some of these, like in phase 1, I'm capturing 2 more commissioned officers to put on the road by doing phase 1, because that's just getting the administrative support that we're currently doing, and then some additional that is needed because we're just taxed in the administrative area. That takes 2 current commission positions, puts them right in the field as officers, and that's going to help greatly. Another thing, as we go through those phased plans, other than just moving one person back to the lieutenant position that we had previously until just a few months ago, we're just simply replacing that open position, which we've just held as an open position. That's all we're doing there, is just moving that back. Then any frontline supervisors, meaning the sergeants who are going to be in the field, every single one of them is going to be on patrol in uniform. One is going to be in investigations, over investigations and school resource and some other. And I'll get in the future, as we start looking at these future phases, I'll bring in org charts and all that and have you guys all look at them and see what you think. But what that actually does is it gives me sergeants, corporals, and officers. It gives me the majority of this department will be patrol working calls. And then I'm going to have a very small amount doing investigations, and I'm going to have a small amount working the schools. Currently, we have
Corporals and sergeants will be in the field also.
Yeah,
It won't be
exactly.
just
And
in-house.
then with the arrival of the sergeant position, what we're going to be doing is if you look through those phases, I tried to highlight each time there were changes. And something that you'll probably notice is right now we have a lot of corporals, and my phasing in plan is to, as we add sergeants, reduce the number of corporals.
Right.
Because right now we've got a position that we've got named as corporal, but we've got too many responsibilities on that one position and not enough training and preparation and development to even do the things that we ask the corporal position to do. They're overcommitted with what we're asking, and so that's why I'm wanting to split that role to something that is more standard. I've not seen a structure before that is like what we currently have, and because I've, of course, the last 6 months I've had my eyes open, my ears open. I'm really investigating how things are functioning, and I'm seeing that we just don't have enough close oversight of the day-to-day systems and operations. We don't have enough training and development of any of our people at all the different levels that we have in all of the different specific assignments. Those are all things that I can work on over time, certainly. And a big part of the training and development, that's all going to come from me. I'll be building a lot of that as we go along, and I'm on the early stages of that right now. But I don't believe it will actually have us be that top heavy. I really, really don't. Because
Optical illusion?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Title only kind of a thing.
Go ahead.
No, you're
Do you
good.
have something?
Two questions. First, the animal pound. How does that factor into the structure? Are they technically under the police department, or are they their own independent entity?
Great question. What we're looking at here does not include the animal pound.
Okay.
The reason that we didn't include it here, the main reason is because we're looking at the police budget, and so I was just putting this together as these are the changes on the police side that I want to do. The animal pound is its own thing, and it is also overseen by me, by us, but it's its own, for lack of a better word, department. It's got its own budget, its own structure. But yes, those employees also report here.
Okay.
So we would still be overseeing them, but it's separate. And so when it shows our current staffing is currently for civilian support staff, that does not include the pound. I have that separate. That's a separate entity.
Fully staffed there now.
We
Since the
are
retirement.
close. We are close. And so with Dwayne's retirement, we actually had that position previously before I was here, was also authorized as 3 positions for that particular department, and we have pulled back to 2. They had previously just pulled back because they had lost one and did not replace the 3rd pound position, and we decided to keep it that way. And so we're not going to be asking to go back to 3. We're only going to go to 2. And so that's some cost savings of a particular position there that we're not going to be staffing.
That's a good question. Just for a point of reference, based on the budget anyway, the animal pound costs us about $163,000 to operate. So for everybody that's curious at home, that's a big expense for the service that we're able to provide. It costs more than you think.
Yeah, it certainly does, and it's a necessary answer to a problem. Different communities deal with these services differently. In many communities, these services are held under the umbrella of either a city health department or a county health department. Many counties and cities do it that way, and it's not part of the police department. There are other police departments here in Southwest Missouri that have to oversee or get to oversee the animal pound, and we're one of them.
Sure. Well, I just
Yeah.
put that in perspective. A lot of people don't realize what that really costs or entails.
It does.
My second observation, the budget for regular wages for the police department shows about $145,000 increase from 25 to 26 budget. But it also shows about a $60,000 decrease in the overtime that you mentioned earlier and how much of an impact that was having on it. So sometimes it helps to have the actual numbers to kind of really reiterate how big of a difference that you're talking. So the actual wages increase is only about $85,000 between 25 and 26. So
And that's the additional positions you're wanting to add in 26? Is that what that number is?
I'm sorry.
Is that the additional positions you're wanting to add in 2026?
the increase in
The
salary
increase in
wages
salary wages.
from
Yes.
25 to 26.
Yeah,
Well, and you'd have the 2%.
and that was a piece of it,
Cost of
a
living.
piece of the
2%
difference
Yeah, whatever.
between this year and next year. A piece of that difference was the 2 additional civilian positions. And then all of those other things, as Alexis was saying, was the cost of living increase, the 2% step, increase for some of the eligible team members, wage, some other minor wage increases, things like that. Yeah.
Okay.
That was it. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on page 2? Alexis?
Yes. So, probably pretty clear from my line of questioning. I am very reticent about adding positions because, as we've talked about multiple times before on this board, that's not just we'll do it for a year and then revisit, because we're creating an entire position with the expectation that we would continue to fund it. So it's a recurring expense.
Sure.
And I mean, you've made a very good case for the need that you have in your department, but as we find out all the time in in our meetings, the need does not generate the revenue to meet the need.
Sure.
And the proposition, public safety, that the community was so supportive of, part of the pitch for that was it would be enough to maintain, but it was not enough funds to really do much in the way of growing the department. So I guess my question is, and I don't mean it in a mean and bossy way, but how badly do you need these positions, and are there things you can cut from your budget elsewhere if we were to say the money, like you get X amount of dollars, and whether you want to use that money on positions or cut back in something else? Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Certainly,
Like, just if we were like, this is the amount, like the budget without those 2 positions in it is what you get, would you be like, all right, well, I'd like to create these positions anyway, and I'll just do less blah? Do you feel like that's where it is, or are these the pieces where if the budget doesn't jump that 80, whatever it was, thousand, you're like, I guess we wait a year on those positions? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah. I put those 2 particular positions as the very first thing that we're doing, and adding in my multi-year phased-in plan, I didn't add another position until 27, because those are the 2 that are our most pressing needs. And literally these are solving multiple problems at the same time, because they're not only maintaining the administrative things that I need to maintain while I move those critical commission positions where I need them most, which is in the field working calls on patrol, that boosts my patrol to where we need to be. And then it also maintains those critical infrastructure things inside the department that we need. And it also is adding a little bit of additional administrative support, which we also need. So I would, in answer to that question, I significantly need phase 1. And then we will do our very best in the training, the development, the reorganization, the reallocation, with what we have, we will do everything that we can to see how we can progress from there. If I need to try to pull money from other places, I would do that for those 2 positions.
So you'd pull 80, what did you say, Justin? 80 something?
85,000.
85, you would pull $85,000.
I would
And I know
find
the
a
money
way.
can't always be moved from thing to
Sure.
thing, but like,
I would find a way if I could.
One of
By the
those
way.
positions was commissioned that you would put to fill, and then you even said, like, if we froze the commission's, spot and just not hire it back, I mean, that probably frees up 50 of the 80 right there.
well, it would but that
then
would,
you would
you
be
wouldn't,
back
you would
down
not
to-
have the full staff.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't give you what you want, like, it wouldn't meet that other part of the need. Now, if a decision is made about the CALIA accreditation, would that be potentially more of a 1.5 position at that point? I guess, do you have a person who's already full-time that would be planning to convert to that position?
One person I am, yes. So that's my position number 1.
Right, but for position number 2, like, there's not a full-time person who probably doesn't want a half-time job. Like, if we're actually having to hire someone and we just said we want a half-time administrative assistant, that would potentially help address that
Potentially.
need.
Potentially. If in answer to your question though, if I had to do on my end what I needed to do with the budget, I would work it so that I pull money from other places if needed to make phase one happen. I would do that.
So would you
As
still,
best I could.
would you still do that if part of the second position in phase one was not, I mean, I assume, I may be incorrect, but I assume there's enough work to be done that even if this person is not doing CLIA accreditation, you have
Yes.
enough work to keep them busy full-time. So you're saying you would still say, even if we took the CLIA
Yes.
project completely off someone's plate, you would move things around in the budget to have the two positions
Yep. Yes,
on
I
the
would.
civilian side?
Yes, I would. Yeah, with or
Not
without
just the two
CALIA.
positions, the one open commission position also. There's another position, a third position changing.
Well, the only thing we're adding in my phase one in January is adding the two civilian positions. The thing
Okay,
that's
so the
highlighted.
commission position is already in play.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The
please.
commissioned position.
Yeah,
is
that's the
already in
lieutenant
play.
Yeah,
position
that's
that
part
we-
of our 25.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's just
It's just an
open
unfilled position. It's
that-
not-
that we've been working through the hiring process,
Right.
trying to
Okay.
get
Yeah,
filled.
we don't have it filled, but we wouldn't be creating that one new.
Correct.
It
that
would
is
just
not
be the
being
two.
created. Yeah.
Okay.
Does anybody care if I don't know how close you are, if we take like a 5-minute break instead of everybody getting up and
Sure.
going out? I mean, would be, you care, Mayor? if we take a
I
5-minute
think
break?
a 5-minute break will be,
It's been
I will,
almost 2.5
I'll do the breaking right there. Shall we resume? Go ahead, Chief.
I am.
I was told you do a great job.
Well, thank you. You're very
I want to
kind.
make sure you know with all these microphones.
You're very
Oh, that
kind.
was not good.
You're very kind. Thank you very much.
We
I
got into phase 2 yet?
Still on page 3.
that was page 2. So we did CLIA overview is page 1. The department wages budget difference from last year to this year. That was page 2. We've really kind of gone over the just through discussion and through the questions that you've already had. My page 3, we've really covered it.
Right.
Because some of the questions have kind of
I
partially been
definitely-
answered by here's where we were and here's where we are. So I don't think we need to do any more unless, again, of course, you guys ask anything you need. And really a good portion of the phased restructuring plan, we've actually talked about quite a bit of it right now, and specifically we've covered everything in phase 1, which phase 1 is really the only thing that's going to be a budgetary
For 2026.
impact for 2026. So it is completely up to you if you want us to have further conversations of kind of my aspirations and desires for phase 3 and phase 4, which is 2027 and 2028. And some other possibilities 2029, but we can talk about those later, or I'm happy to go ahead and continue if you want. It's up to you. But I think unless you have further questions about those 2 administrative position requests, and I think we've done at least some of the answers to those questions. If you have any others about that, I think that's really the majority of what impacts 2026.
Well, I don't know how the rest of you want to do, or if you want to
I think
save
Thomas had
the
a-
discussion. I'm sorry. Okay, put-
always put it on the agenda again to follow up and complete the restructure briefing at another time.
yes, I was going to ask if we might do all this at a later time and spare
let's-
the chief and all of us
I think
any
just
more on
focusing
this?
on what affects
Because we've kind of,
2026.
we can kind of see what's before us, but our responsibility is going to be phase 1, basically, at this point.
I will say, though, even though we're not going to talk about it tonight, I very much appreciate you providing this information. It gives me a great picture of where the department needs to go. It demonstrates the professionalism and excellence that we've been talking about here tonight. Increases even more the confidence I have in your ability to lead this department. I really appreciate the work that went into it. It is not a wasted document just because we're not talking about it tonight. We will want to talk about it. And I just wanted to say thank you for providing, because it is a really helpful piece of information.
You're very welcome. That's very kind.
Thank you,
And-
Chief. I'd like to echo what we have heard here and in the community, that the work you've been doing is just being recognized as being superb and superlative, and we're just honored to have you.
Well, thank you for your kindness. When I come back and we revisit this again, I'll also bring updates on the other behind-the-scenes things that we're doing as well.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Save the
everyone.
rest for later. Okay. Let's see, what's this number 7 we've got here?
All right.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, well, I like just to echo what some of the board members say. No matter what decision is made about the police department, you can tell by him and what he said and what he's done since he's been here, the police department's in a really good position right now under his leadership. I know there's a couple pending questions that the board asked. We have some of those. I think one of them was, Ms. Neal, you asked about what the COLA was. That's about an $85,000, $90,000 hit to the budget. And then technology-wise, Chief Watkins did a little research. It looks like 26 will be a little bit higher year, and 27 looks a little bit better for us. Potentially like $120,000 less, according to the information we're getting from J-Mark.
I've asked, I think I've asked this question before, because we got hit so hard on the workman's
That's correct.
comp. And has this been a better year as far as the claims?
We are having that discussion with Hollis in the very near future.
Okay.
But I think the answer is yes.
But
But
we're still
again,
we're still looking for a 3-year.
That's right. It doesn't go
record
down
before-
overnight.
Before we're going to get that multiplier down.
right. So
But this year will be one of, like, this is not gonna be another year that we have to wait for it to fall off. Like, this is one of the years where you're like, no, this is fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
wondering if things are,
Yeah.
seem like they're doing a little
So-
better.
if I could, I'm going to invite Mr. Schrader up here. There were some questions, or we promised to come back with the breakdown of the sports revenue expenses by sports, and he's put together some documents. So I'll be back right after he goes through that. Guess I missed that.
Me too, buddy.
Okay, in your packets, or they should have sent you, you should have this document right here. Okay, we're gonna start with that. Okay. We're just gonna kind of go through this as quick as we can, just to show you. You can kind of read this. You can see the revenue side for what's listed, of course, and you can see the expense side, and then you can see if it's either plus or minus. The very first one at the top is concessions. I'm going to leave that one till last, because I'm going to talk about concessions as a whole when I get to that point. So we're going to actually start with youth winter basketball. You can see that revenue in was 21.9, roughly 7.2, and then expenses was 15, so a plus of 69.22. You can go down through every sport there. Youth spring soccer 17, revenue 10, expense for a plus 65. What we did on, just let me pause for a minute, on part-time wages, we tried to put it as close to each sport as we could. It's not easy to do that. We have went back to HR, and they're going to try to create some better practices where we can pinpoint wages better for each sport. So they're trying to set that up for us. So that's something moving forward that we can do better at, or be more accurate with. Okay. Youth volleyball, you can see there. This one is a little bit lopsided because we had 39. You can see for revenue, and we had 6,080 for expenses. And the expenses there was mainly because we have 2 officials for each game, and that's what lopsided that. Adult volleyball, same thing. Revenue is 946, 2,300. You can go down through each of those sports. Youth baseball 17, expenses 32. Here's where our expenses are why our expenses are so bad with baseball, softball. Does anybody want to take a guess? What do you think that is? Umpires and
Maintenance of the fields.
maintenance of the fields. Getting back to what Brad was talking about, when I started here a few years ago, our baseball fields were taking on a super amount of water. Okay? We did go in, the city, through Public Works, they went in and they actually put a concrete wall between fields 5 and 6. It's a mini wall, and all it's there for is to help with water flow. Okay? Did it fix it? No. But did it improve it? Yes. Okay, so that's one step that we've done so far to improve the fields. Another thing that we've done this year on Field 7, because Field 7 was taking the majority of the water, because the water comes down to 5, comes off of 5 to 6, and then from 5 to 6 to 7, okay? What we did with 7 is we raised the field playing surface, and then we also diverted the water before it actually got to the field a little bit. So we've actually done that too to help. We've actually, what we're needing to do though is still divert the water that's coming down from the parking lot a little bit to fields 5, and then it gets to 6 and 7. So Kyle and Thomas and I, we've talked about it. We're going to look at a plan to try to divert the water. If it's going to be It could be with additional, if we have to raise the fields more. I think if we raise the fields even a little bit more and divert the water more towards left center or left field on field 5, that's going to take away a lot of it. But anyway, we're kind of still in those discussions, trying to figure out how we can get the water, to keep the water off the fields. Okay, because here's what happens. People don't realize this, but when we have ball games in the summer, spring, summer, okay, and we have, say we have a 2-inch rain on Thursday, and we're trying to play on Friday, and we do that. You know how we do that? We have part-time help out there at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, pulling water off our fields. And then there's been times where they work till 3 in the morning pulling water off the fields, and then they're back out there at 7 a.m. Getting ready to run a Saturday league.
How
And
do
that
they-
happens.
How do they get the water off?
There's multiple ways. Sometimes they use shop vacs. Sometimes they use sponges. Sometimes they'll drain trenches to get the water to flow, and then we'll come back and fill the trenches in. But if the guys don't do this, or if our staff does not do that, we don't play. And then we have to cancel, and then now we're just rolling these weeks by week. So what I'm getting at is our wages for that sport. The reason it's lopsided is because a lot of that is part-time wages, and these are kids that are, some of them are high school kids, some of them are college kids, and they help us out. Some of it's overtime for Chase and Devin, but that's how we get where we can compete and play consistently, where we don't have a lot of makeup. So that's just the way our fields are at this time. Are our fields, do our fields material-wise have the best material on them for moisture? No. Okay? If you look at most high school fields, or most college fields, or most pro fields, they use a product called Turfus. Okay? It's the best for playability, and it's the best for moisture control. Okay? Why don't we use that? Because most high schools, how many fields do they have? One for baseball, one for softball. How many do we have out here? 5. So we can't put Turfus on every field because for cost-wise, we just can't do it. Now, if we had an open checkbook, yeah, we could do that. So we have to use the other materials that help allow us to still play, but it's a cheaper solution. We've used this material. I call it Oklahoma. It's Oklahoma sand is what it is. It's Oklahoma clay. We've got that out of Oklahoma. The reason we do that, we get a whole semi-load of that material. The material itself is $75. Trucking to getting it up here is a little bit more, but that's what we've used to make our fields work without using Turfus. So we just don't have the budget to do the top of the line material for our field. So that's why I got off on a tangent there, but I wanted to explain to you why our part-time labor is off there.
Todd, can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
With the amount of labor you do on the fields, I know we've thrown this around the ringer with turf and all this other stuff. If we ever did get turf, would that number go down significantly?
Probably to 0.
Real quick.
What way are we trying to find grants, or what way are we trying to find grants? What are we doing throughout the community to say, hey, how do we get turf to these fields?
Okay, here's what I've done with turf discussions since I've tried to manage this monster. Anyway, no. A few years ago, I put a plan together, and it was actually a kind of a tier pay system to go out and try to fundraise for turf, okay? And some of you may remember that, some of you may not. But anyway, I went out and talked to the community and asked them if they would help partner with us to buy turf. I went to the CMH, I went to some of the banks, and I had one partner that agreed to help us. And they said, and they were going to pay us X amount of dollars to sponsor half the field. So my goal was to get 2 sponsors for an infield. And this is just infields only, not the whole field. first base side could be Bank of Bolivar, second base or third base side could be CMH. That was my goal. Okay, I got half a field. Okay, and they agreed to do that, and we were going to allow them to do that and make that payment over a 5-year period. So they were going to pay X amount of dollars year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, to make it work. So went out, got one business okay, and then the rest of them said they were not interested. And part of the reason their answers for that was because of the Liberty money. Okay, because we just got that money from Liberty, and some of them said, I don't tell you exactly who said this, but they said, you guys have money in the bank, you need to use your Liberty money. So here I was trying to get money, and they said you have the money. So that's why I didn't have any leverage there. So I have tried to partner to get turf. But if we have turf, we don't have, we get an inch of rain in the morning, we're playing in the afternoon. Because you can actually still play in the afternoon, or you can still play with water in the outfield if it's minimal. You can actually still play if it's raining lightly in the outfield with infield. Very few complexes that have turf have rainouts. They don't have hiccups. That's why everybody goes to them. That's why the complex at the airport, they're building a new complex there, and it's all going to be turf. How many of you guys have been up to the National up at Max Creek? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's all turf. That's why I don't want to get into Brad's discussion, but the reason we don't have people wanting to come to Bolivar a lot, we don't have turf. We don't have, and we had Sandlot here 2 years ago. They played 2 tournaments here in 24. They did not play in 25 because now they're going to play on turf fields. And that's what's going to happen. And that's why that John Hartley's group, they're going to go play on turf versus coming to Bolivar. So, I mean, if I had a youngin traveling playing ball and we could go play on turf or an average dirt field, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a hard decision. So, anyway, kind of got off on that. If you look at adult slow pitch softball, you can see we're lopsided there, 55, 16. A couple things we did there that we're not going to do again. We had 2 umpires, and we're going to go back to 1. And also, we used to have 2 separate seasons. We had like a summer season and a fall. We combined and have now just one 12-week season. I think we may still stay with the 12-week season, but we're going to up our entry fee on that we got to close that gap. So the main thing is the officials is going to take care of part of that. Youth fall soccer, you can see there, that's pretty much a wash. Youth tackle football is a little bit, it's not terrible, 13 versus 17. Here's the thing with football that a lot of people maybe don't know. We have to get our helmets certified every year for approval. Not just Bolivar, that's everybody. I mean, that's every youth program. If they do it right, Nixa, Ozark, Logrog, everybody, you have to get your helmets reconditioned and certified every year. Also, helmets, once they're 10 years old, they get pushed, they go to the ditch. You cannot use helmets at youth, middle school, high school after 10 years. You can't use them. So that expense every year, that's a $5,000 expense. So what we're going to try to do there to help close that gap is we're going to raise our fees a little bit for football there too to help with that. Flag football, this one is, I think this is where some of the part-time labor got shifted to the wrong area just because we have one official for flag football. So I don't know how that expense got so twisted, but once we get that fixed with HR, I think we can track that better. And then youth fall basketball, if you look at that, that was the best one. 21 and then 11 for expenses. If you add these up, I don't know if you did, if you add these up, we are off $22K, okay? If you remember last meeting, what we recommend for next year is a 20% increase for individual and team. And I know you guys, we had discussion about doing the same price for team. We met, Thomas and I, Natalie, Chase, Devin, Hannah. After all the discussions that we've had with the other schools, communities, the models that they use and the models that we're using, we still want to recommend the 20%. Okay, and here's some of the reasons why. If we go extreme and go the team prices the same as individual, and charge the team $660 to play versus $390, we're going to lose teams, and we don't want to lose teams because we want the Fair Plays, we want the Osceolas, we want the Lakelands, we want the Buffaloes to come and play. Multiple reasons. In third grade, we may only have 2 third grade teams, but look how many third grade teams they bring. So our kids aren't playing each other every week or every other week. Okay, so it's important to get them here to help fill our brackets, so we're playing multiple people. That's an advantage. Another advantage or benefit is what happens when they come to town. They go eat out, they buy food, they go to Walmart. So that's another benefit. That's why we like those area teams. So our group as a whole, we would like to try the 20% for a year. Okay, come back, see what our numbers is. I'm confident between what we can do with raising 20% by changing our part-time labor. I'm going to explain that in a minute, how we're going to fix that. Fix our concessions, because we got a hiccup with concessions. By doing all that, I think we can get it where it's going to be close to being a wash. Okay? After a year, say next November, we have this discussion and our numbers don't show, or say something's still off, then maybe we need to go another 10%. I want to be very sensitive to these parents, because 20% is going to be especially with families that have multiple kids, that's going to be a pretty good hit. So I'd like to have you guys hopefully support what we recommend as a group to go 20%. That handout, left this handout too. I think it's on your paper. On your in your stations. Basically, you can kind of see the 20% why, the benefits of the rec program for the team sign up. The reason we like team sign up is because the coach, for the rec side, it's less work for our people because the teams are being formed by the coaches. We like that. Most coaches are linked to a team. We don't have to find as many coaches. Some teams provide their own jerseys. That saves a little bit. And then we love the area teams coming in. And you can see all the different area schools, communities that come in. I think Buffalo last year for basketball, this session brought 11 teams, which is awesome. This year, Lakeland's coming back. We've had Stockton's come over. I remember a couple years ago, I think we had Walnut Grove came in. I think 1 year, I know 1 year for softball, baseball, we had Warsaw come down. So we like that because it just, there's so many benefits to that. And then benefits to having area teams. I talked about revenue, more teams to add to each grade level. This model aligns with other communities on what they're doing. There's not a model out there that for teams that people, I mean, it's very similar to what we're trying to do and recommend. Okay, last thing, concessions. If you look at the top of that sheet, that first sheet, this one, you can see we were lopsided in our concessions. We really don't know. I mean, we troubleshooted this. We thought through it as a group. Right now, it shows that we're 8K in the hole. Okay, but our inventory that we have still sitting out there at our ball field, between inventory and then items that have been outdated, because you have items that they get past the expiration date and you can't sell them. Okay, we've had that happen this year. Between the two, that's 2K. Okay, so expiration date. So now expiration, you can't sell them. I mean, per the health department, you can't move stuff after it expires.
I lived with that my whole life.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
scam.
true. It probably is. So anyway, between between what we have in inventory and what we had to call out because of expiration date, it's around 2K. Okay? So then where's the other? Well, here's another suggestion, or I guess discussion. Our processes that we did this year is no different what we did in the past. We have, Hannah sets up the money bags, they have the sheet to fill it out, they go out, they do the game, they fill it out, they bring it back, she deposits it. So the process hasn't changed. But there's a shortfall. So we don't know if it could be, another option is, and Hannah orders, and this is discussion with her and Shauna, we order our supplies together with aquatics. So I'm thinking maybe we ordered a order and we charged it to sports, and it should have been charged to aquatics. Does that make sense? So that way, that's a little bit miscued. $6,000 worth? No, it's not. But that does come into play too. So that's where we're at. So our processes isn't working right with concession. I mean, you can just tell that. So here's what we're going to do to fix it. Okay, if you look at the bottom of that handout I gave you, I've talked to Thomas, talked to Hannah. Here's what we'd like to do moving forward. First thing is, next year for concessions, who do you think is going to be in charge of concessions? Me. Okay? I'm going to be in charge of concessions because I'm going to see why we had such a hiccup. And we're not going to have concessions next year for soccer, either seasons, flag football, or slow pitch. And the reason we come up with that is because the amount of product that we were moving for those nights is not happening. And here's why. Think about a baseball, softball game. Most of those nights, they play how many games? Double headers. So they play a game, they're there for 2 hours, 2+. How long are people there for soccer games? 45 minutes. So they walk in with their Wendy's cup or their Maverick cup, and they walk out with their Maverick cup. So they're not buying anything. So what we're doing as a city, we're having 2 workers sit there in the concession stand every night, night after night after night, and our wages are going clean, and we're not getting anything. So this year we're going to try it. We're not going to have concessions for soccer, flag football, and
Slow pitch.
And slow pitch. Okay, that just in wages we figured out today is going to save us $2,800. Okay. Then next year, we've already put in our budget for 2 computers and 2 credit card machines for Fullerton. Okay. So we're already going to do that. But what we're going to do in addition to that is we're going to go no cash at the ball field. Everything's going to be credit card or debit. Okay. I know that's going to be a change for some, but here's the thing. Once people realize that's how we operate, they're going to make it work. Okay. As you guys know, that's our kind of our modern world right now. Is a lot of people are getting away from cash. The reason I like it is because our Civic software that we use for everything, all the inventory is going to be put on Civic by me, and all the sales are going to go through Civic when the kids enter that. So there's not going to be any cash handled. So accountability is going to be in place. Okay, it's going to be a lot more efficient. It's going to be a lot more trackable. So we want to do that. So what we want to do is go to credit debit cards only, and we're going to use the Forte credit card processors. And by doing that too, we're going to get to where they can do Tap to Pay, Apple to Pay, and Google Pay. Because a lot of people use those type of platforms as well. And we want to get to that type of operation at the rec center for front desk and even into the aquatics for concessions in there. So that's kind of where we want to move everything. Okay. So that's kind of our plan for this next year, to try to get through some of this. I want to share too. Just so I can close here. I know the sports we're ups and down, and we have things that look off. I guess not balanced, and they're not always. And we're going to try to close that gap. But I also want to share if you look at our overall departments, parks, cemetery, golf, aquatics, rec, all that. If you look at our budgets, we're very, very healthy in the black still. And that's because our leads are doing a heck of a job running their departments. Rhett, Charlie, Shauna, Chase and Devin, everybody. Now, do we have some hiccups in the budget that we need to fix? You bet. But we're going to fix them and we're going to get better and move forward. But overall, our department is efficient. I think we're providing great services to our community in a lot of different ways. I think wellness is important to this community, and I think we're tracking that way. But I just wanted to kind of paint that picture that these guys and gals are doing a good job within the departments, even though we have some things that we need to weed through. Okay?
Could I make a comment?
Please.
Todd, I don't know how you're feeling about the increases in fees, aquatics, rec, golf carts, what have you. I am not a big fan at this moment of raising the rates for those items. I can understand why you'd want to raise the rates for the teams of the sports we just covered. But parks, rec, pool, golf, it's the only things we have that draw people to Bolivar either to visit or to live. They're never going to be a budget neutral. They're just not designed to be that without
Yeah.
some heroics.
Here's the only thing with,
I feel like we spent an hour and a half the other night or a month ago nitpicking rec. And
but here's the thing too, and where did minimum wage go to this year? 15?
it went to 15.
So we do have to close that gap. So we haven't raised our rates for a while in sports. 20%, I know it's pretty healthy, but if we could do it this year, then maybe, hey, it's going to work next year, then maybe we can set on it for a couple, 2 or 3
And I
years.
think with sports you're going to get that, but when it comes to the rec center, the gym, the
Okay,
aquatics,
rec center,
that's
gym, those rates, there's no recommendation for increase there because
Okay.
we're good there.
Aquatics was going from
6
6
to
Now-
to 8,
now-
6 to 8.
Yeah, now aquatics is going up. My bad. Aquatics is going from $6 a day to 8. That hasn't been raised in several years
Yeah.
on that. Golf, I think the only change we did there is we did increase the annual fee, which hasn't been increased for years, and it was minimal. All the other ones, like all the rentals for the park and all that, those are very minimal increases. We haven't done those for years. So
Okay. They're not going to make an impact on people coming in.
not at the rates we put them.
Okay.
I don't
They're
think
not
so.
going to go, oh, well, I'm not renting that card.
And
Or-
we may have some kiddos that, and some families that may, ask us about the scholarship program that we can help them.
Right?
And we've got a mechanism in place there for people that need help. So we can utilize that too.
Okay. Thank you.
One more.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We had talked a little bit about after the meeting the last time, and I was just going to mention it. We've got the pool pass for the kids and everything. Have you thought about doing that for entry fees,
Gate.
gate fees into the sporting events that you charge gate fees for, just to kind of as a
Especially for
100
large
100 bucks,
families.
here's your pass, and your whole
Oh,
family
you
can get in.
mean
kinda thing.
having a
Like
pass for sporting events?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the only two sports, and we had this discussion. We actually looked into this year in some of our meetings, Natalie and everybody. We talked about having gate for the other sports because right now we charge for football, and the reason we do that, there's multiple reasons, but the main two reasons is everybody in our little association that we're part of for youth football, everybody charges, okay? And everybody charges the same amount. So everybody knows when they go to Bolivar, they're going to pay $3 and $2. When we go to Logan Rogersville, we're spending $3 and $2. So that's why that's in place there. And then basketball we charge because of our official fees. So that's why we started charging for basketball, 4 or 5 years ago. We did have discussion about charging for or adding admission for baseball, softball, soccer, some of that for this coming recommendation. But we pulled that off the table because we didn't feel comfortable charging them 20% more for individual and team, and then coming back and then hitting them, in my words, in the mouth, so to speak, again for gate. Now, that we may come back next year and say, hey, we still can't get this thing balanced. We need some more revenue, so we're gonna have to start charging gate. Some communities you go to, you pay. Some communities, that's at the high school level, middle school level, youth level. Some charge, some don't. A lot of it depends on how much revenue they have supporting what they're trying to do. So that's why we haven't recommended gate. And that came from our meeting as a group. We all decided, let's pull that back this year, maybe implement that next year. And here's another lens to look through. If we're going to charge gate, we have to do some modifications out here at our facilities to contain that so we can do it correctly. We have no fencing. We have, go out, you guys know, go out here for soccer. It's like herding cats. They're everywhere. So we've got, just for that piece, we're gonna have to figure out how to do that as well. Okay.
Sure. Which I don't disagree. That's
and
a good idea
part-time
not
help.
to do that,
We figured
but-
part-time help.
Oh yeah,
If we add a gate for the rest of them, what do you think? Just part-time, because you're gonna have 2 people usually somewhere.
Yeah.
But if we charge for every sport every night, and add that to our sports that we don't charge gate, just take a guess for a year where you think that part-time help increase would be.
4,000 or 5,000.
$1 million.
4,000 or 5,000.
102,000.
9,500. At $15 an hour, because everything's because you have 2 people, so you're figuring $30 an hour basically, and you're doing that every night. And we run basketball too. That's not including basketball, but basketball we play Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well, I think his
Yeah.
question was something different, though. Todd, sorry, I think he had a different question than that, though.
I didn't mean to add charging extra gate. The 2 sports that we do charge gate, if we did like a family pass, so instead of going
yes.
8 times,
Sorry
you're going
about
to pay
that. I got on a
$4 a
different-
piece.
Yeah,
Maybe
we
you
can
only
look at
pay-
that. Because I know the school, back in the school world, we had something like that.
Yeah.
And we do that for the pool. That's something we can talk internally and see if we could.
It might be an incentive or just a bonus since we are raising the rates a little
well,
bit. And
actually since we're raising the rates, it would actually benefit, of course, families. Yep.
Yeah, especially
Yep.
larger families.
So sorry, I misunderstood that.
no, that's okay.
Yeah, I think this overall has been a good exercise for us to kind of take a deep dive into the sports and kind of see where we are. So
Sure.
I'm glad we actually did this. It was healthy for us to see where we were.
And can I make a quick comment?
Yes, go ahead,
here?
please.
I would also say, to the comment about the raising the rates, I'm a little sensitive to the letting rates stay the same, and then all of a sudden having to make a really drastic change. I love not paying more year over year, but I hate a 30% increase after, so knowing that the aquatic center has been $6, I love it. I love paying the $6. I love the pricing on the season pass, but we get in that habit. We have in the past, in some contexts, gotten in that habit, and it has served us poorly. And so I would much rather see a little bit higher every year. I'm sorry, I don't like it either, but a little bit higher every year so that we don't have, hey, it's been $6 for the last 5 years and now it's $12 or whatever. So I think you could do 7, I think you could do 8, but I would just say, I don't love this moment to increase prices either, but I get real nervous about freezing prices artificially to keep them more accessible for people, and then eventually we got to pay the piper, and we all of a sudden have a big price increase. So I would say maybe be willing to have those prices just come up gradually and build in it's going to go up a little bit every year, like everything else is going up a little bit every year. It stinks, but better that than the hit with the huge increase later.
Mr. Sager, sir.
I like the idea of going cashless because that eliminates sticky hands.
Yep.
And
I don't like cashless, but that would be the reason to like it.
Would the gate also be cashless?
you go to any professional ball field now, and they laugh at you when you give them.
I know. I had to go buy gift cards at the Bolivar night at the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions of Todd or sports? Okay, just to quickly point out, hope everybody had a chance to look at our capital improvement program budget, our 5-year projection. Obviously, you had the 26 in there, and then we kind of working with the team projected out over the next 4 years following that. So it was, again, something good for us to kind of look at where we are, kind of our fixed cost over the next several years, and maybe some of the bigger projects that we need to think about budgeting for in the future. So I don't know if you have any questions about that. We can readdress that at another time, but that really gives you a good idea of what we're going to be spending the capital improvement money on. Okay, so obviously we didn't change anything with the budget for this conversation. We thought really the big thing was getting Chief Johns here and having him discuss kind of his restructuring plan, because that was really within public safety. That was really the bulk of the increase was coming from that. So we didn't make any adjustments. I will say that we did in the budget. We do have a request for 2 additional. It's basically one person from part-time to full-time, adding a part-time position, and then increasing HR staff. So we presented to you kind of some explanations of that there for your review. Again,
So Thomas,
I'm
quick
sensitive.
question. With the police department proposed positions, and then those proposed positions here, how many total new positions are proposed in the budget for 2026?
It'd be 2, 4. But one of those is
3.5.
He's asking for 3 in that department.
2.
No, 2.
No, he's not.
2.
There's already a current opening.
2,
2 to fill in 1.
and then
During 26.
a half and a full.
No, that'd be a.
Say that again, I'm
promotion.
sorry.
Never mind.
2 from the police department,
Right.
and
one
then
a half for
a
him?
half. Getting somebody to, we talked about getting somebody to help our communications manager.
Oh, I see.
You remember that? We had that conversation. That person, we're thinking maybe that would be like somebody from SBU or somebody that wants to be involved in that could come and help Jill out on special events, kind of be a backup. There's a potential with that one that we might try of leveraging another employee to kind of help her do that. But we still would like to keep that in the budget. We would give that a shot to see if that's a possibility. But we're doing what we always do. We're just adding more and more to our employees until we kind of just break them down. So that's a possibility. But we've also included money in for that if that doesn't work out.
But perhaps not have
Yeah.
to use it.
So we're
Correct.
looking at 3.5 total positions.
Yes.
Okay.
And then 1 part-time to full-time. Right, we have somebody we hired part-time. She's doing a great job for us, and converting that one
4.
right.
Technically, that's 4.
Yeah,
You're going from halftime to full.
Do
Correct,
you
that's what I said.
have an estimate of what the costs for those positions with
Yeah.
benefits and salaries and
Course
everything?
goes up,
Yeah.
too. It
Mhm.
yeah.
depends
But
on-
those positions are like their work comp factor are extremely low, like hardly anything.
The police isn't, though, is it?
Yeah, well, I was referring to the general
Yeah,
staff.
but-
Yeah.
So of those 4 positions, roughly, what are we thinking?
Well, so the here at City Hall, those are entry level positions.
Okay.
So those are $17, $18 an hour positions, plus benefits.
Except the intern for Jill. That
Entry
would
level,
be 15,
17, that's-
correct? An intern shouldn't get that much, should they?
That would probably be a minimum wage.
Okay.
So you're probably looking at the entry level at 17, about 36,000 plus benefits. Benefits are probably 5,000-6,000.
What, a third or fourth of what the wage is? 103,000? What?
With lockers,
Benefits?
taxes, everything.
It's how much?
For the 3 people or the 1 person?
Two full-time people is 103.
Okay.
Can you say that into a mic, Dusty?
For 2 full-time people with benefits, it's $103,000.
For the city hall people?
Yeah, that'd be total, right, Matt? Yeah, it's total. Yeah, that's not per person.
No, yeah.
Yeah, for 2 people. So
Double it,
it's
because he's one chick.
$51,500 per person, give or take. Okay.
And that's in the proposed budget.
It's in there. We did not change anything. It's in the notes.
So in the proposed budget, how much money are we transferring in from indirect proceeds?
103. It is refer to this page right here.
So pretty much the indirect proceeds is transferred in for potential 2 of the 4 employees.
No, everything that we talked about today, his and these were already in the budget.
Sure.
Is that the question asked?
But we're
I'm sorry.
transferring in $103,000
Correct.
from indirect. 2 employees cost $103,000. So
Yeah.
if we were to say, let's maybe not do 4 employees, but 2, then we wouldn't have to transfer anything in from indirect, and we would have a full paid for budget without getting money
Yeah,
from any other.
of course.
Or alternatively, to our conversation with the chief, not funding, right? So you could potentially fund 2 of them, of the positions, and then police if they want to make their department whole by funding those positions and cutting other things. Although that presumably is something that could also be explored at the city hall.
Yeah.
I'll ask you the same question that I asked the chief. Do you think that the need for these additional staffing positions is such that were additional funds not provided, you would make cuts elsewhere in order to make these positions happen?
Yeah, I would.
Where would you make cuts?
We would have to find it. We'd have to find it someplace. I don't.
So-
I haven't gone through that exercise yet, but
So
yeah.
here-
I mean,
here's my concern.
Can I
with
say
it.
something real quick,
Yeah, go
please?
ahead.
So, I know look from the outside in, right? It's like, oh, everything seems fine, right? You know, everybody's, we're getting the job done. Yeah, we are, but we're really taking a toll on some people too. I mean, we have certain staff members that they can never get away from this job. And I know that it's true, right? They're taking their laptops home. They're working late into the night. We want to take some of that pressure off them. I think it's fair. I mean, and they do it and they don't complain about it, but I mean, we're trying to address that work-life balance a little bit better.
And I understand that. Like, I would love, in a perfect world, everybody's job is stress-free. We haven't, everybody's got assistants that can help them. They don't have to do that. But at the end of the day, we're talking about the East Loop, and we're going to have money for there, which in turn is going to take down what we have that we're getting interest off of. So our interest money isn't going to be the same as it is today in a year or 2 down the road. We're creating potentially 4 positions that we're going to have to pay for, and then next year when they get a COLA, they're
That's so true. I agree.
Well, we can pull in $110,000 from the indirect for another 3 years, and then that goes out. Then we spend our money, on the East Loop, then we lose that interest money. So I love the thought of making sure that everybody's taken care of, but there may come a day in the very near 2, 3, 4 years where it's, do you want, do you want money or do you want positions? Because we can't fund everything, and right now everything's good, but if we spend all of our money while things are good, when things aren't good or some of that money goes away, we're creating revolving expenses that we're going to have to pay every single year. And then, looking at the police department's going to need 2 or 3 more officers in the next 2 or 3 years. The fire department may need to hire people. City Hall may, and all of those add expenses. And it's one of those things that the very real fear is, at some point in time, probably in our tenure here, online sales are going to surpass in-person sales. So our sales tax is going to plateau and then also come down, and we won't have and so we can sit here and kick the can down the road and be like, hey, we're doing great now, so let's just hire everybody we can. And then 5 or 6 years say, ooh, now we got to fire everybody so we can make. I don't want to get to the point where we've hired somebody and, hey, in 2.5, 3 years, now we got to fire you because we can't afford these things. I mean, we were fortunate enough that our budget has gone up in 2 departments by $900,000, and we're able to move some stuff around and do that. But I don't know that we're going to be able to do that year after year after year. And I mean, the budget's probably going to call for that. Is I mean, to Kyle's point earlier, the price for the East Loop went up, what, $2 million and $4 million in a couple of years. Like, everything is going up. I don't and I would love to have all these positions filled and everybody, having this, but I also feel like we've done a really good job we've raised wages in probably the last 3 years at a higher rate than we have for 10 years before that.
Yeah.
We've implemented the STEP program. We have a lot of fringe benefits, and I would love to have these positions. Now, if you tell me, hey, we can cut, this by 20,000, we can cut that by 20,000 because we feel like we really need those positions, great. I'm not going to say that, no, we don't need. Okay, but moving forward, again, we need to know that that's going to be a revolving expense. So to Chief John's point, if you can find money elsewhere, I would love to not have to transfer any money in from indirect proceeds. And if we can find the money to cut things elsewhere, and hey, let's hire the 4 positions we can, and we can find that money elsewhere, great, let's go ahead and do it. But I don't want to just do it because we can just pull money in from indirect, if that makes sense.
Sure. No, I understand.
Well, and I think sort of to what you're saying, part of why I asked the question is not out of a well, you can only have it if you make cuts. Yep. But I am asking you, which is more the need of the particular department, whether it's police or whether it's here in City Hall, because I want you to have what you need. And if what you need is people more than other things, then I think the department heads are in a position they can make those decisions of what will best serve their department. So the question doesn't become, is it worth it to fund these positions or not? The question is, where is that money coming from? And I would agree with Dusty. We have dipped into indirect funds way more than I wish we would have been able to do in the past. And I cannot stomach having the increase in revenue we've seen this last year and still reaching into that pot again this year. And so for me, I'm a real tough sell on anything coming out of indirect when we've had that much cash come in, specifically so that we could be made whole. And then for us to, the very first year we have that, say, well, it turns out we need to still not be made whole because that's not sustainable. That's not going to change. So I would love to see those positions filled and supported by other cuts as deemed appropriate by the department heads to support that so that we can operate on the budget and the revenue that we're projecting.
Okay. Now, do you have any direction from the CLIA? I think at some point there was a lot of talk about that.
Well,
at some point, I think you all need to make a decision about
Well,
that.
it sounds
Either we
to
need to do
me-
it or we don't need to do it.
It sounds to me like that from what the chief said, going through the actual visit, there is not a financial obligation that comes with that at this point. So that to the point of morale, we could achieve the goal for which lots of people have labored very faithfully and with a high degree of excellence. And to be able to give them that reward without having to commit the city to a financial undertaking. I don't see a downside to going ahead and going through that process in the first quarter, especially since the bulk of the labor hours have already been invested. I know there will be some still. So I am not opposed to going ahead and going through that when all the costs have already been prepaid for that. And then we just don't have to pay to subscribe in November. And then if the chief wants to go ahead and fill that position, offsetting it by cuts elsewhere, you could have 40 hours a week to help with the administrative labor and not have to go through 20 hours a week of CALIA. That's kind of my thought based on what we've heard so far. But for me, that the accreditation process could still reach its culmination. I'm fine with that. And then we would just decide whether, and just say that at this time it's not worth it to invest half a position and another $5,000 a year to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you say you're going to make that decision when? I guess I didn't.
No, I'm saying that I'm comfortable making that decision now to say, go ahead, get accredited, but we are not budgeting a position to maintain that accreditation, and we are not budgeting $5,000 or whatever it is for subscription.
The only issue I have with
The end
that
of next year.
is we're going to go ahead. it's in the budget for 14,000 for 2026.
Yeah.
So we've got it budgeted.
Yeah.
We're gonna say we're gonna cancel it in 10 months, but we're gonna pay, $5,000, or moving forward we may not, do it, but we're gonna go ahead and pay for it now. Like if our ultimate
already
goal
paid
is
it.
we
Yeah,
think
we've
people-
already
already-
paid
It's already
for it.
paid.
We've already spent all the money.
November?
So why-
but
Check has not been
so
written
then my question would be
2025 budget.
why, why do we
right, but
have
it's-
14,000 budgeted in 2024 for CLIA accreditation if we don't have to pay anything?
we would have to pay to renew for the next year, next November.
Okay.
Well,
And so I mean, I guess it doesn't matter then. We just say we don't pay for CLIA to renew in next November and just go with what it is now. I mean,
Right.
knowing that in November it's not going to be.
I mean, and she can correct us if we're wrong. My understanding is we spend functionally no more dollars, go through the process to get accredited, but no additional dollars are
Only
expended
to
to
cancel
CLIA.
it in November.
And that would
We
include
would have achieved accreditation. The years-long process that's moments away from being completed
And if we're
would
not
be
gonna go
completed.
through with a subscription renewal next November, there's no need to go to and spend hotel, lodging, travel for going to
For the,
get
yeah,
your
$800 or
accreditation.
whatever it would be. Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Chief, are you
Well, no, I'm saying
confident
that-
in
yeah.
that there are no more
'Cause that would
costs
be
as
travel,
far as
Expense,
subscription
food and
expense
lodging.
with CLIA to get the accreditation?
So the big fee of the actual assessment is already
Got it.
been done.
Right.
We're paying it now for the
25
Right.
funds.
process. So if you chose next year after you obtain accreditation to then not continue it, then that's.
Right.
So there's nothing that's coming out of the budget in 2026 for CLIA accreditation until potentially November.
Unless
That's
the
my
training, unless the hotel, like she mentioned, unless they were gonna do hotel training
Position.
stuff. But the accreditation, all the expenses related to the accreditation are taking place on the 2025 calendar year. So all that would be the actual process, and then whatever man hours go into going through that first quarter process.
Man hours are
But the,
not cheap.
well, no, but it sounds like the bulk of the full-time position part of it, it sounds like we're through that part. And so now it would be the hours of the accreditation, but so that's my thought is I hate to walk away so close if it does not cost us anything more to get across that finish line.
With all the time and money we've spent on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, if we're that close, not gonna cost us anything, then let's go through and just not pay it in November. So if the board so chooses.
That's, yeah.
I'd like to make that motion.
That's where you're gonna say something.
I just think.
I don't think that's a motion, that's the guidance, and we'll present
It's
a
just the
revised
guidance?
budget.
Okay.
I just think you're kicking it down the road. We gotta make a decision. I know we spent the money.
But
And
when-
I hate just throwing that money away, but
I'm okay with,
I'd rather just say, no, we're not going through it. Don't budget it for.
It wouldn't be a budgeted item. It would just be getting the benefit of the site visit accreditation or whatever the online accreditation process. It would just be the graduation ceremony, essentially, like after having completed all the coursework.
I
So,
just think you're kicking it down, just kicking the can down
Right.
the road. Just-
If you think that way, I still think it's worth our officer who's spent
Mm-hmm.
years working towards this. Like he deserves this more than anything.
Sure. Now, are
Well-
we going to fund a position for up until November to? Are we literally just getting accredited and then like putting it on a shelf and saying,
I know.
November rolls around, we're just not going to re-up it if that's what the board wants?
which would hurt that officer or
I mean,
lieutenant or whatever more.
That's what we
Ripping
would
the
be doing
Band-Aid off
now. Like, I
or
don't
slowly
know-
until November.
I don't know that it's.
because like now if we said, hey, we don't want to pursue CLIA accreditation, like that person wouldn't be tomorrow show up and like, hey, I got to get the proofs, I got to do this, I got to like the CLIA accreditation would essentially end tomorrow. If we say, hey, we're not going to end it until next November
No, I'm-
when we have to pay it.
We can end it as soon as we get accredited. I mean, we don't. I don't know that
You're
you
still
end it, but
paying a
But that's what I'm
person
saying
to
is,
do
are we
all
going to
the
pay that
work.
person?
We're paying that person
Then
anyways,
what?
though.
Then-
He's a
then
sworn
how are
officer.
they
He's doing
finishing
But we're paying
until
him
the
to-
audit in late
I
January?
doubt he's just.
Do police work.
I'm guessing he's not just doing
Excuse me,
that.
let's try not to talk over each other. I mean, this is important stuff, but let's try to be more orderly here.
I don't think we got out of hand.
No,
We
I-
got a back and forth.
Not
going.
bad, it's fine.
There was,
It's
there was,
fine.
yeah, there was a little bit of
It's fine.
crosstalk. I guess my understanding, and the chief can correct me if I'm wrong. If we're looking first quarter is when we think the assessment is going to take place, the accreditation visit, whatever that looks like.
Right.
I don't know that we've been told exactly what that would look like as far as man hours and whose man hours, because I don't know if there's going to be a meeting with multiple people or anything like that. But from what you said, it sounded like the financial investment was going to be minimal. I think it feels very different to set a goal, achieve the goal, and then decide that you do not want to maintain the level of commitment that that goal requires, in this case, financial commitment, not commitment to excellence. Like, that feels very different to me than almost achieving a goal and then quitting. One feels like we set a goal, we met the goal, and now we decide whether or not this is worth committing future resources to. And we can have big celebration. We did it, you guys. We've been working on this forever. We put up the plan. Like, it is a thing that was accomplished, regardless of what happens in the future. That is a real accomplishment that has value. To me, that feels different. And yes, so there would be some man hours, but it would be less than full-time position for 1 quarter, of the year. Because if you're thinking it's going to take place in first quarter, and then it just means that you get your commissioned person, out on the field in April or whatever, instead of maybe in January. But so there is a little bit of that cost there, but for most of the year, you still have the benefit of having that person available to do more frontline work. And you got to achieve this goal that's been a department-wide goal for however long. So that's to me, the cost-benefit analysis is negligible enough. I think that it is worse for morale to get so you might run a marathon and be like, well, I never want to do that again, but I did it. I did it the one time, and that still has value.
Right.
And that doesn't, the fact that you decide we're not going to do that another time. I know it's not the exact same,
No,
but like
I mean-
it feels like that kind of thing where you make this big accomplishment.
Getting to mile 25 of 26.2 and not making it.
Oh, I
is-
can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So to me, that makes it worth the, from what I understand, negligible costs of getting across that finish line.
If I may throw in just a
Please.
point, I 100% agree with that, and that's what my recommendation would be. Let us cross the finish line, and then we can assess whether it's something that we want to do on a continual basis moving forward. I think the crossing of the finish line is significantly important to the team. But then additionally to that, if it is approved to additionally add those 2 civilian positions, which again, the administrative support is significantly needed, the majority of what is remaining after January, there'll be some overlap time between my corporal and then the new civilian position as well. But any of that residual that is needed for the rest of the process will go to the civilian employee who is going to be paid significantly less than my corporal. Who again, then my corporal will be phasing into the other work that we need frontline for a patrol officer.
And again, my position, just as an individual, is I am comfortable authorizing those new positions as long as the police department budget is not increased by the amount of those positions. So those, whatever that those 2 costs are filled elsewhere. Not maybe saying that as clearly as I should, but so that would be, I would say my intention is that the subscription amount for Kalia not be included in the budget. And if you want to lobby for a change later in the year, you can do that. But at this point, it would be, you can have these positions if you can make room in your budget for them. And if you want to come back and request funds for Kalia, that would, like, the decision for now to not kick the can down the road, the decision now, the default would be no further funds for Kalia unless and until you persuade us otherwise later in the year.
I think that would actually be helpful because we did get some positive information again from the insurance folks that there may be some type of an impact. That would give us time. We are now accredited, and here's what that means to us. We feed them with all that information. Maybe they come back with some information that's very helpful for making that further decision about what does need to happen in the future.
I
sounds fair to me.
I can get on board with that. Like
I
that,
can.
yeah, that makes sense. So.
I could live with
I mean, to me, the only thing to wrap up the budget is with the 4 positions, the departments that are going to them. If we can find the funds without pulling in indirect proceeds, I'm fine with those, you know, the budget as it is, with those positions. So, I mean,
Okay.
Fine.
Just
Find the funding.
yeah, I mean,
okay.
everything, I like, the recommendations from the Parks and Rec Department, what they presented to us with,
Yeah, that's good.
with the increases to the, you know, the team fees and cutting back on some of the umpires and, you know, tightening up the other stuff. And I mean, I like I said, if we can find a way to fund those positions by taking stuff out of the budget and eliminate that 103
Understood.
indirect, I think we're good. So
Okay.
We very much appreciate the work that has gone into preparing all of this and helping us to better understand the needs of the departments. We want to give the departments what they need. And unfortunately, we have a limited amount of dollars to do that with, but we want to make sure those dollars go to where the departments need them most. That's the priority. We don't want to be trying to decide for the departments what their specific needs are. We want to be able to let them do their jobs because they're doing a great job, and we want them to be able to do that with as much of the funds available as we can give
tell
them.
your friends and family to shop local.
That's right.
So,
Okay, thank
have
you.
we made clarity on this? And I take it that this will not,
Mud, right?
we will not have board action on this tonight. But but those directives, I think, are fairly clear, are they not, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And with that, we will wrap up the number 7.
Ready, Don? Yeah. Poor guys.
Okay. I'm entertaining a motion for the first reading of bill number 2025-77.
First reading. Second.
Counselor,
This is bill number 2025-78, ordinance number 4100, an ordinance authorizing the city to enter into renewal agreements with Cox Health Plans, Guardian Life Insurance Company, and Mutual of Omaha for the city's health benefit services.
questions and comments from the board? We're kind of commented and questioned out. I'm entertaining a motion for the second reading of bill number 2025-77.
Second reading?
Second.
And a second? Do we have a second? Okay. Counselor?
This is bill number 2025-78, ordinance number 4100, an ordinance authorizing the city to enter into renewal agreements with Cox Health Plans, Guardian Life Insurance Company, and Mutual of Omaha for the city's health benefit services.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Raines.
Aye.
Sagister.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Ballard.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
By a vote of 7 ayes and 0 noes, we have approved bill number 2025-77. Are we out of Alderman comments as well?
I just have one real quick. It's not city stuff. The high school speech and debate team has a home speech and debate tournament next weekend. I believe it's the 13th and 14th, and they are looking for as many judges as possible. The requirements are, if I can do it, I think anybody is already qualified. So there's a Google Doc online. You can reach out to the school. They've got tons of events. I think they're at 51% judge, so they've still got 49% that they need to fill with a little over a week left. So if anybody so desires, go judge some speech and debate. It'll be fun. So
All right. With that, I'm entertaining a motion to go into closed session.
I move we go into closed session pursuant to RSMO 610.021, subparagraph 1, legal actions, cause of action, or litigation involving a public governmental body and any confidential or privileged communications between a public governmental body or its representatives and its attorney, and RSMO 610.021, subparagraph 13, individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment.
Okay, second, and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Price.
Aye.
Ballard.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Sagister.
Aye.
Raines.
Aye.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
By a vote of 7 ayes and 0 noes, we are going into